You're already seeing it. They brought out a V8 in the Wrangler, which was they wouldn't have done that had Ford not jumped in the game.
Nope. I forgot you could actually get a V8 in the Wrangler too. So it's going to be great. I'm just so excited about this. I think the Bronco is going to be great. I hope it brings something else. And I think in our interview segment, we're going to talk to you next. And we're going to talk about some of these vehicles coming back as EVs. And some of the stuff, there was some interesting, like we talked earlier about the Scout and some of these other stuff. I think that's some interesting stuff happening in there. So, folks, hang on because we've got a lot of more information from Jeremy. We're going to really pick his brain. There won't be much left, anything.
I don't know if there's much to start, but we'll
there you go. But hang on. It'll be fun, and we'll be right back with Let's Talk Wheels. Mike Herzing, Matt Peralt, right here on the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. We'll be right back.
The Dave Smith Show.
The great Jim Lampley joining Dave Smith here. You said Mike Tyson has been knocked out in an iconic call. Foreman, when you said it happened when he knocked out Michael Moore with that right hand, does any one of your fights stand out as the most memorable event for you?
Well, the call that I'm fondest of is it happened because it's so personal. I wasn't really trying to needle George. I was curious. I would say, George, how can you expect to beat Moore? He's a southpaw. He's a mover. And George would say to me, Jim, you watch. Late in the fight, he will come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. As Joe Cortez was counting 6, 7, 8, and it becomes clear that he's going to get to 10, I'm literally thinking to myself, oh my God, he told me for months this was going to happen. Why did I not prepare for this momentous, historic event? And what spontaneously came out of my mouth was, it happened. It happened. That was the right thing to say at the moment, in my view. I'm still proud of it all these years later.
The Dave Smith Show, weekends at 9 p.m. Eastern on the SportsMap Radio Network.
SportsMap all night.
Right now, it is a Fab Five of contenders there in the American Football Conference. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cleveland, and now put the Tennessee Titans in there because offensively, not going to be a whole lot of teams that are slowing down Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and oh, by the way, King, Derrick Henry.
SportsMap all night with Bill Schmidt.
Weeknights at 10 Eastern.
The Jake Asman Show.
Michael Kay with us here, Yankees play-by-play announcer on the Yes Network, host of the Michael Kay Show on ESPN New York. You mentioned Larry David. I know you're a huge Seinfeld fan. You just said it. You talk about Seinfeld a lot on your radio show. Could you ever get Jerry Seinfeld on, or is the fact that he's a Met fan going to be tough to maybe get him on a Yes Network show?
You know what? I think that has to be it, because we've tried for 20 years. And, we either have not gotten traction or somewhat resistance. And, he and Larry David are extraordinarily close. And Larry has had a good experience on the show. And we've since become friends since the show. Like, he'll text me during Yankee games. Why did they do that? Why did he take that picture out? Stuff like that. So I'm sure that if Jerry would ask Larry, Larry would say, yeah, it's a good experience. But Jerry, maybe if Gary Cohen was the host, he would do it. But he's definitely loyal to the Mets for sure.
The Jake Asman Show, weekday mornings from 9 to 11 Eastern.
Pharrell.
Coast to coast! Vic Fangio, I always love when he embarrasses himself.
Still has absolutely no idea who's going to win that competition.
Yo, your quarterback sucks. Last year's all you need to know that Drew ain't the guy. Teddy will get that gig, and he sucks too. So you got nothing but problems in the thin air. I mean, your quarterback situation's a nightmare. It's a train wreck.
Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern.
You're listening to the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Matt Peralt and Mike Herzing.
Folks, welcome back to Let's Talk Wheels. Mike Herzing, Matt Peralt. This week, we're going to talk about our reviews, car reviews. This week, I was driving the 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Hybrid. Okay, now this is Jeep's first Wrangler EV, sort of. Okay, it's a really nice hybrid. First thing you'll notice, it's got a big charge port on the side of the front fender, and it's very out of the way. You just hardly notice it. Other than that, it looks like a standard Wrangler till you drive it. Okay, it's got a 2-liter 4-cylinder, got the 8-speed manual automatic transmission as usual, but it also has twin electric motors. What that does, it gives you about 375 horses of max output. This thing scoots, folks. It really runs well. I was like surprised. Okay. It's so quiet. I can zip around the neighborhood. I can do this stuff. You can drive it in hybrid mode. You can drive it in electric mode. You can drive it in hold mode, which means it holds that electric charge, which is good for about 25 miles, holds it till you get somewhere where you want to use it. Like if I'm going on the freeway, I didn't use it. Okay. I just held it. But then I got stuck in town, and all of a sudden here I am driving around on EV mode. That was really kind of cool. You know, and stop and start is what really makes the EV part work, okay? Because it's seamless, it's quiet. You don't notice the shifts. You don't notice the engine stopping and starting. But the best part is I'm not using any fuel, okay? And if you're stopping and starting, it actually makes the battery last longer than just driving down the freeway. The battery is underneath the back seat. It's kind of out of the way, kind of in its case in aluminum housing. It's got its own heating and cooling circuit. Keep it so when you're freezing cold or it's really hot, this battery doesn't lose any charge. That's the best part about it. But like I said, it will also charge when you're decelerating or hitting the brake. It'll also charge when you plug it in the wall, which is I love hybrid. If I'm going to get a hybrid, I want a plug-in hybrid. Okay, but this is still a capable Jeep. The one I had was a Rubicon. They make the 4xe, is what it's called, in Sahara, the Rubicon, and also the 80th anniversary edition. So just the upper end, the ones of this. But here, it's still capable. It can go into water up to 30 inches deep, okay, without causing any damage. It still has the deal where you can pull the top off and hose down the interior if it gets dirty. It's same as Jeep, any other Jeep. It had adaptive cruise control. It has all the safety features. It's got the backup cameras. It's got the sensors that, you want to change the lane, you want to back up. It's got cross traffic alert. It's got all the good pedestrian stuff, everything that you want. It also even has, if you want audio, how about an Alpine audio system? Okay, HD radio. Okay, really all kinds of plug-ins that you can charge. You can do anything you want. It's got the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's got everything you want. It is really nice, but it's still a Jeep. That's the most important thing. It's still a beast off-road. It still is a vehicle that when raining and storming and it's nasty or it's snowing and you're stuck out here, you got a Jeep. You can get home. It's a Wrangler. For gosh sake, you can go anywhere you want to go. But this makes it really a cleaner, nicer Wrangler, okay? Because I can tell you what, even though the four-cylinder runs great, don't get me wrong, it has plenty of power. But when you need to accelerate, it'll add on to that electric motor. And it really accelerates. I mean, it's really cool. Don't worry about it off-roading and things like that. Those electric motors are sealed. They're waterproof. And it's not going to hurt anything. And off-roading, going slow, these motors have so much torque. It really makes a really neat off-roading experience. And it's also quiet. But like I said, they have those 3 modes of operation. E-Select. You can do whatever you want. Okay, like I said, I held the power charge till I got somewhere and used it, and I used it off-road at my lake house and stuff, and it was really kind of cool. Went through a creek, pulled up. It's just so quiet. It's really you have to try it to see it, but check it out. It's gonna be hard to find because they're not making enough of them. They're going to sell the heck out of these things. But with this 400 volt, 17 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack, it's really neat. I bet you in the next few years they'll come out with a little bit farther range. I said you can get about 25 miles. I average about 22 miles per gallon between mostly in town. And like I said, it runs out of the electrical power in about 25 miles. So if you're going to go like that, drive around the neighborhood, go up to the store, come back, you're not going to even use any gasoline. But tell you what, if you want a Wrangler and you want the coolest Wrangler I found, check out the Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon. Be sure to check out the 4xe because that's the hybrid. I'm so happy that Jeep did this. It's about time. Like I said, everybody that's owned them, I talked to 2 people that owned them, and they love them. Okay, the dealers, they haven't had any problems with them, and I think everybody's just waiting on more of this kind of stuff. I can't wait till we get some of the other Jeeps that are checking out. But so much for me. I really enjoyed it. But if you want to check out the Wrangler and the resale value on these things is obscenely good. So check out the 2021 Wrangler 4xe. Now, Matt was driving, I would believe, the Hyundai Elantra. Matt, tell us about that one.
This vehicle starts at about $21,000, and this thing can be priced all the way up to the limited hybrid version, just under $30,000. There's a bunch of different options here. The blue hybrid is really interesting. The SEL model, which is really nice. Okay, can we just talk about this is not your mom's Hyundai Elantra? They have done an incredible job with this vehicle. It is way different. This is a brand new, bold-looking vehicle. It looks dramatic. It is different. It stands out. It is not a boring vehicle. I give Hyundai a lot of credit because they really do a good job with stepping out and saying, okay, so people think the Elantra just is like an entry-level vehicle. It's kind of boring, and it's just not going to match up with some of the other things in the class, in the market. And frankly, people aren't buying sedans all that much, so let's just kind of throw it together and not worry about it. That is not what happened here. This is a bold vehicle. It's got great value. The engine is pretty fast. It's fun. I'm pretty impressed with the engine. Now, I had the fully tricked out version, okay? But I think this wows. I think this is great value. It's high performance. I mean, it's got incredible highway gas mileage. I mean, like incredible highway gas mileage. 50 miles per gallon you can get with this thing. It is a vehicle that I would get, you know, in terms of the engine, I would try to get the most you can get in terms of the horsepower available. So the hybrid model is a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder electric motor, about 139 horsepower. You've got the 147 horsepower 4-cylinder engine with front wheel drive, the only option you got on that, but it does definitely move, and I'm pretty impressed with it. Now, I had the hybrid version, so I had, you know, the first 4 or 5, 10 miles per hour is all electric, and then it clicks on. But that's what gives you the 53 miles in the city and 56 miles on the highway. You can drive this thing for days and not go and have to get gas, which is really nice. I just think the interior is awesome. The touchscreen is great. It's got a lot of features that you wouldn't think on a sedan, and it just has, you know, when you get in the vehicle and you sit in it, I love the steering wheel for Hyundai. I think they do a really good job making it very simple. 10.3-inch optional digital gauge, a 10.3-inch infotainment screen. It's awesome. It's really big, really easy to see. You got Apple CarPlay with this standard, as is a Wi-Fi connection. So, I mean, wireless Apple CarPlay is so big to me. We just got it on the new vehicle for my wife. It's really an important piece to me to have wireless Apple CarPlay. I absolutely love it. You got your standard automated emergency braking with pedestrian detection. Your lane departure warning is standard, lane assist. You got adaptive cruise control. It's available, lane centering if you want it. You always get that great 5-year, 60,000-mile warranty with Hyundai. I just think it's worth taking a look at this vehicle because of the engine, because of the performance, and what it looks like. It's just really, really sharp. I love the nose. It's a very dramatic, sloped-down nose, a great big grille, nice headlights. It just has a very sleek style to it, and it stands out. When you see it parked, you'll walk up to it and you'll go, huh, what's that? And I love that. That wow factor, that ability to kind of stop people in their tracks and kind of go, wait, what am I looking at? I think that's an incredible, incredible thing, especially for a vehicle that's not going to break your bank. I mean, cost-wise. Again, this is $26,000. The blue hybrid's $25,000. The limited hybrid up to $29,000. But, I mean, this is a vehicle under $30,000, and it feels more expensive than that. I mean, I would put this above a Mazda 3. I put this above a Toyota Corolla. I mean, you know, maybe it's in the same class as a Honda Civic, but I think this is one of those vehicles where you need to drive it to believe it, go see it, go look at it, and then kind of forget what the name is. Hyundai Elantra. Take that out of your brain. Don't think about it. Just go in there. Look at the different colors that they've got for this vehicle. There's a lot of really cool colors. I had it in a very bold color, and I think it's awesome to see it. I really think this vehicle is worth getting behind the wheel, taking it out for a test drive. The sleek exterior, it's got a lot of cutting-edge things, and the gas mileage is just, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Definitely, I would check it out. If you're in the market for a $25,000, $26,000 sedan, the 2021 Hyundai Elantra, definitely check it out.
Okay, folks, that was Matt Peralt with his Elantra review. We've got a lot of things coming up right now. We've got some interviews coming up next. If you're talking to Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network right here, Mike Herzing, Matt Peralt, hang on. There's more to come.
Tom Bodette for Motel 6, leaving the light on for the three-dimensional soccer fan. Those cardboard cutouts were feeling a little flat. They didn't even yell goal for as long as possible when we finally scored. Well, while the cardboard you is packed away, the real you can head to the next road game. Motel 6 will help you get back into the action with clean, comfortable rooms at a great low rate. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Kicking back with a good cigar, it's a reward. It's a tradition. And if you've been going to a gas station or convenience store, it's expensive. It's time to try FamousSmoke.com. Famous delivers your favorite cigars right to your doorstep at America's lowest prices. You know what you buy at a gas station? Gas. Beef jerky, lottery tickets, not cigars. That gas station doesn't watch their humidor like we watch ours. Filled to the rafters with over 1,000 brands like Romeo, Drew Estate, Rocky Patel, Fuente, Macanudo, and more. Millions of cigars in stock, shipped fast, and guaranteed to arrive at your door fresh and ready to smoke. No gas station guarantees that, but we can, because cigars have been our family business for over 80 years. Here's our best deal yet. Go to FamousSmoke.com and use promo code $10 at checkout. That's $10. We'll take $10 off your $50 order. If you want real cigars, trust a real cigar shop. Famous Smoke Shop, and save $10 now with promo code $10. Only at FamousSmoke.com.
Over 2.5 million airline passengers fly every day in the United States. Those passengers depend on reliable airplanes, and those planes need certified aircraft technicians. That's where you come in. We are the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, and we train tomorrow's technicians. We train our students hands-on with real aircraft, develop their skills, and prepare them for real jobs in the industry. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the average aircraft technician in the United States makes over $62,000 a year.
The job opportunity is there. The money is there.
If you want to work with your hands, it's a perfect place for you.
Call 800-876-0097.
I'm very impressed with the AIM curriculum. The school's keeping pace with the demands of the industry.
The potential for growth is astounding.
At the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, we train tomorrow's technicians.
800-876-0097. 800-876-0097.
You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? How much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on BestHotelRates.com. BestHotelRates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great hotel and room choices for the best prices. Why wait? Go to BestHotelRates.com, enter your email address, and start shopping for your next hotel room. BestHotelRates.com, it's in the name. BestHotelRates.com.
You're listening to the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Matt Peralt and Mike Herzing.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Let's Talk Wheels. I'm your host, Mike Herzing, along with Matt Peralt. Matt's on vacation, but we've got Jeremy Berenbaum from Classic.com. So don't forget, be sure to look that up. It's CLASIQ.com. Jeremy, we're going to finish our conversation from earlier in the show about some of these vehicles. I was reading on one of the sites. One of my listeners sent me a note about some stuff about making classics. But do you have any car questions we need to answer first?
Yeah, I got a couple of car
Let's talk
questions.
about it.
You know, some of them are related. Like one of them is, because it's summertime right now, someone was reaching out and asking, as it gets hot, should I do anything with my tire pressure in my car? Should I increase it, decrease it? Should I worry about it even? So
this is the time to absolutely worry about tire pressure on your car. But when you check your tire pressure, you need to do it with the tires cold. Okay? Now, you can look at the side. There, some people say, I know what my tire pressure needs to be because it's written on the sidewall. No, that's the maximum tire pressure. You will damage the tire and possibly suspension, and the car is going to handle horribly if you put it at that number. Okay? You want to look at the doorpost and see or the owner's manual. Now, the problem you have is on a classic car, you don't have those. You don't get that. Okay, so what you would do is I would check with the people that sold you the tires and find out what they recommend as tire pressures.
Yeah, because you do, like you said, there's a big difference between your optimal running tire pressure and what max pressure should be. And there's very few times that you should be running max pressure.
Yes,
ever.
I heard Otto in the background. Yeah,
he's agreeing with us, saying don't put too much air in your tire.
No, as a matter of fact, but if you don't have enough, your tires are going to overheat. Also, they're going to handle terrible. Actually, classic cars don't handle that good anyway, but that's part of the issue because a lot of these classic cars are around bias-ply tires. And now we've got radials. You don't think they even hardly make bias-ply except for maybe on trailer tires. So what's the other questions?
So this one is just from a guy named Justin who just reached out and said, I just overheated in my car. I'm actually he's back home safe now, but he wanted to know what were the first things or steps he should do to try and figure out why he overheated.
Well, he needs to find out if he overheated on the freeway. If there's a symptom of a plugged up radiator, where a restricted radiator is, the farther you drive it, the hotter it gets. Okay, and then if you slow down, the car cools off. It's real funny. It's kind of like people said, I can't figure that out. If I drive it 5 miles, it gets to one temperature. When I get to the 10-mile mark, it's higher. If I keep going, it goes higher and higher. If I slow down off the freeway, all of a sudden the car cools down. If I get back on the freeway, it starts over again.
Is that because the radiator is working at slow speeds, but once you get going fast enough and the water is moving quickly, the radiator is no longer...
No, it means that the radiator can't cool the water down fast. It's not spending enough time in there. The radiator can't cool it down, so it can't keep up. Now, what his problem is, if he's got a classic car, most likely is he has a coolant leak. He's got a leak somewhere. It ran low on coolant. Okay. And once it runs low on coolant, it's going to overheat. What he should do is let it cool down. Do not open the radiator cap until you can squeeze that hose and find out there's no pressure on it. Otherwise, you're going to get burned pretty bad.
That's a really good point that a lot of people, I don't know if you know, but if you're overheating and you go to open that radiator cap, there's so much heat and pressure in your motor and radiator, it's all going to find its way out the cap, and you can get severely hurt or burned doing so.
Really badly. I mean, I've had some friends get really hurt, third-degree burns, hospital time, and things like that. So be sure to just wait till it cools down, or at least wait until you squeeze the top hose. If you can squeeze it, there's no pressure against it, then you know you're okay. That's one of the things you might want to do. And so that's important. But also find out what you'll do is, like I have a radiator pressure tester when I get home. A lot of times you can fill it up with coolant and you notice there's no leaks. Well, that's kind of odd. But if you put it under pressure, under about 15 pounds of pressure, then all of a sudden you'll see water shooting out some spot. Okay, so you probably got a leaking water pump, maybe a hose leaking or something like that. So have him double check that, and he also may have to replace the thermostat, because sometimes when you overheat an engine pretty bad, it damages the thermostat. It's not a bad idea to replace it at the same time.
And the thermostat is what is between your radiator and the engine block, and it's kind of what's letting that cool water into your motor once it hits a certain temperature.
It lets your engine, and also when you do that, you'll have to start the car and let the radiator burp. It has to burp the block, and then you can go ahead and then refill it with coolant and then give it a shot. But yeah, usually you want to if it's been pretty badly overheated, I would replace the thermostat. You also could have had a thermostat go bad if they fail. And how you test those is you take a thermostat and you take it out and you put it in boiling bottom, a pot of water. You'll put it on the stove, and my wife goes crazy because I'm checking the thermostat. What is that nasty thing in my pots? But I'm checking the thermostat, make sure it opens up at the right temperature. Sometimes it won't open up at all. So that's an interesting thing. So what are
that's a cool little trick. And then my last question is a guy named Steve who's restoring a '69 Camaro RSSS, and he's going a little bit crazy right now trying to find parts. And he's seeing repop versus OEM. Where do you go crazy and spend the dollars on the OEM stuff, and when is it okay to buy a repop?
Folks, that's a reproduction. In other words, somebody came back and built the parts. And I think those are okay as long as they're good quality. Sometimes you're not going to be able to find the old stock. I mean, it's just not going to happen unless you want to scourge. There are people that are talking about they practically scour the planet looking for one part. And I don't know that it's going to make any difference in the value of the car. And so if it's not a body part or something like that, I would especially engine parts or transmission parts, I would go with a new reproduction model, but it's just, they're going to have to really, if it's something to do that's visual, maybe you want something really good.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's one of those things that it's like small parts that are inside that are not mechanical, that are easily hidden, clips like that sort of thing. It's not worth it to spend the extra money. But maybe if you're looking for, the wood trim or the gauges, something like that, where it's in your face, you see it all the time, then it's a little bit worth it to spend. And like you're saying, where do you go? Because sometimes these parts are astronomically crazy because you cannot find them. And the people that are making the reproductions, they're just as good versus some of the other parts that you get a reproduction. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't function the same. So it's worth it to do a little bit of research and find out if you're buying from a reputable source.
You're right. You're right. And that makes a big difference. Okay. Any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay,
I think we want to, you know what, I do have one thing that's kind of a question and I wanted to talk about. A lot of people reach out to me and ask, what's the importance of paperwork or documentation in their classic car? And is it something they need to, is it a deal breaker in some of these cars? Or what is the most important thing when you look for in this documentation?
Depends on the classic car, if you ask me, because I've got a friend and she's got a 35 Chevy hot rod. Okay, and it's got a small block, and it's got somebody's rear end, like a Ford rear end, I think a Mustang 2 rear end or something like that, and then it's got so much so-and-so's front suspension, and she needed rear brake shoes and wheel cylinders. Well, what rear end is it? You know what I mean? It's all put together out of everybody's parts, right? And it's hard nowadays to go to an auto parts store and say, here's some brake shoes. Can you get me some like this? He'd have to go through 20 boxes of shoes.
Yeah, they're going to go, what year, make, and model is it? Right. You're going to go, I don't know.
Well, luckily what she has is the guy that built the car originally and sold it to her has saved every receipt, and he has all this book. Okay, and it has, these are O'Reilly brake shoes. This is the wheel cylinders I use. There's the part numbers. Okay, and I did it, 10 years ago or whatever. She really does need brake shoes and wheel cylinders. So we had to go back and look in her book, and I showed her, okay, this is what we order. This is what we order. So we have something. Without that, it would be a nightmare. Now, if you've got a 58 F100 like mine and it's got stock brakes, then it's okay. You can just go look at the manual for stock brakes. At the parts list. But if you've got a kind of a custom-built resto mod, then you really have to have that important. And the value is going to be huge. I mean, if I had the documentation on my F100, it'd be worth another couple $1,000s.
Yeah, just to know that when it was restored, what was done during the restoration, what parts were used. That's all valuable information, especially when you're talking about cars that have original mileage.
Right.
And do you have a way of proving it? Because a lot of these cars have 5-digit odometers, so it could have rolled 2 or 3 times. But if you have, and even if you do have the paperwork that shows it has 200,000 miles and it's accounted for in its whole life and where the car has been, people will pay extra for that because it's the history of the car.
Yeah, it's great. As a matter of fact, that actually goes to a car right now, nowadays. I mean, if you've got a car right now and you've got service records on it, it's worth more. You go to sell it. You go to trade it in. You go whatever you want. If I see service records, I've seen everything this guy's done. Okay, wait a minute. He had a water pump. Or like I sold my Toyota a Tundra about 6 months ago. I should have waited, so it would have been worth more. But I had a 2006 Tundra, so I had put a timing belt on it at 110,000 miles. Okay, and I put a timing belt, water pump, cam seals, crank seals, everything I needed, and a tensioner all underneath there, and I had all that record. So if I didn't know it, okay, I would have to pull it all apart to see that it's been changed, or I would have I would have to go ahead and change. If I was buying it, I would have to go and change it because if it breaks a timing belt, it can damage the engine. Okay, so that's a certain thing. Or I know that, okay, by the way, it's had a water pump done in so many months. Or by the way, the alternators hasn't ever been rechanged. It's original. I'm going to take a trip, and it's got 150,000 miles on it. Do I want to change the alternator? Oh, yeah, I do. Or do I need to, I've never had wheel cylinders put on it. It's time for, whatever. And so there's all this information. It's worth a lot to the second owner.
And it's one of those things, if you buy a car that doesn't have that documentation or paperwork, it's worth it for you to start it yourself because that's also going to, if you ever go to sell the car, it just shows what kind of person you are that you're taking care of the car, that you said, hey, I wanted to keep all this so that you have it for when you have to deal with issues.
Even if it's only a spreadsheet, It said at this date I did this, at this date I did this. Like I took off on my F100, I put on an alternator because the generator just wasn't any kind of output at idle, and which is generators. Okay, so I updated that. I went ahead and replaced the master cylinder because I thought it was leaking. I have there's so many other things. I mean, I did replace the oil filter. It had a cartridge type oil filter, and I really don't like those. So I put the adapter to put on a spin-on filter. So now you can use an FL1. You know, those little things like that. Yes, I changed the oil. Yes, I changed the diff fluid. Yes, I fleshed out the brake system. Yes, I did the coolant. All those things that I do. I mean, I have a notes on my phone about what I've done at Lake House because I have a mule, I have a gator, I have 3 John Deere tractors. So I figure out.
You lose track, and it's best. Sometimes the notes aren't for someone else; the notes are for you. So I once went and changed oil in a car, and then later on found out that the oil was just changed 200 miles ago, and I hadn't found any notes. And then,
yep.
You know,
and you don't know it till you drain it. You know, and so that makes I know it stinks, but it's something we've got to do. So it's really kind of tough. But you know what, Jeremy, this has been fun. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I love classic cars and I love doing it, but you're right. There are times that I just didn't feel like changing the oil, or didn't this, but you should change the oil every year, even if you hardly drive it.
Yeah. That's a tough battle sometimes when you're like, car at all this year, but do I need to? Is it worth it?
Right.
And everyone has their own opinions on that.
Yeah, we really do. We've got another car question or two. We're going to take care of it in the next segment. We're almost running out of show here, buddy. So it's going to be fun. All right, folks, we're out of time for this segment. Time flies around here. Mike Herzing, Matt Peralt, Jeremy Birnbaum. So just hang on for more Let's Talk Wheels right after this.
Sports Map All Night.
Chris Ariola, 38, 6-1, 33 knockouts here on Sports Map all night ahead of Ruiz Jr. and Ariola. So, Chris, if one of the Paul brothers decided they wanted to mess around and try to go up a couple of weight classes, that would be a lesson you'd be able to teach them?
Oh, man, please. Oh, my gosh. It would be a dream come true to fight one of those guys. I would fight him for pennies. I would do it for free, honestly, just to teach him a lesson.
That's the thing, man. How disrespectful is that for you who trained his entire career and his entire life for this?
It's pretty disrespectful, but at the end of the day, man, I got to give him a little respect because
let me ask you
not that easy.
Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
I kind of do.
I like calling them the Habs.
I don't want to admit that to my wife.
I feel like a hockey insider knowing that we can call them the Habs.
Yeah, if I call them the Habs, I feel like I'm misusing it. Like, I feel like you have to be a part of a club to use that terminology.
Because here's the problem. I have no idea what that means.
Habitants.
Habitants.
Les habitants.
What is that? Habitants?
That is French for habitants, residents of Montreal.
Because they're Canadians?
Yeah. Think about it. Like, if there was a baseball team called the Americans, like the New York Americans, every other team would be like, well, we're Americans too. We're just the Bobcats.
You just solved the biggest riddle of them all. Washington football team should just be Washington Americans.
I think they should. Exactly.
There we go.
Just
We
encompass
solved
the whole country. Yeah, and that way you kind of jab at the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. It's a good idea.
It works on so many levels.
Wake Up Call with Tony B and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9 Eastern.
The Jake Asman Show.
Leonard Ellerby is with us here. He is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions. Oscar De La Hoya came out the other day and said that he wants to fight Floyd Mayweather. Would that ever happen? Would Floyd ever allow Oscar De La Hoya to make a lot of money using his name?
Absolutely not. It'll never happen. Oscar De La Hoya is just trying to use Floyd's name to
create some buzz about whatever he's attempting to do, and nobody's really paying him any attention.
The Jake Osmond Show, weekday mornings from 9 to 11 Eastern.
You're listening to the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. From the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Matt Peralt and Mike Herzing.
Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Wheels, folks. I'm your host, Mike Herzing, along with Matt Peralt. Matt's on vacation, but we're gonna wish he was here back soon. I tell you what, he's gonna be missing out on a good show. Don't forget, you can catch the Let's Talk Wheels podcast on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify. You can also hear our bonus segment where we talk about classic cars with our good friend Jeremy Birnbaum, who's right here on the line from Classic.com. Be sure to check it out. It's CLASIQ.com. A lot of cool cars, a lot of great information. You can also find our podcast on Classic.com. And when you find our podcast, be sure to subscribe. Jeremy, quick question. I had somebody talking about an International Scout, okay? What do you think about those things as far as a classic vehicle?
I think they're really cool, and especially they got a big following right now because of the whole, SUV and off-road scene that's really big. And you're finding a lot of people that, we were talking so much about Broncos today and Wranglers, but when people want to be different or have something a little bit different, I think the International Harvester Scout is the place that people go to.
Oh, those things are a beast. I mean, they are. I mean, I've had friends that still have them and use them for hunting, and I'm like, man, this could be a classic car. He said, I know, but it's been, in 3 generations of my family practically, and
I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but International Harvester kind of came out of tractors, and so these vehicles were built, bulletproof as work utility vehicles on the farm.
Yeah, and they were still making them into the 80s. My
favorite part. Oh, sorry to cut you off. My favorite part about them is I had a good friend that had one of them, and I was like, "Oh, this thing's cool. It's got a convertible top." He goes, "Yeah, it takes about 45 minutes to take the top off because there's individual bolts that hold it all the way around the chassis and window frame, and then if you take the top off, there's weather stripping that you have to cut, and it's kind of like once you've cut it, it's not really weatherproof anymore."
It was that way with the big Broncos. You see a lot of people pull the tops off the bigger Broncos, the second generation Broncos. Jeremy, thanks for joining us today. It's really great. And thanks for filling in for Matt.
Oh, it was fun. I have a blast every time.
All right, folks, remember you can find Let's Talk Wheels on letstalkwheels.com, Facebook, Instagram as Let's Talk Wheels SBN. As always, on behalf of Matt Peralt, our producer, Jeremy McCraw, Jeremy Birnbaum, and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us today on the Let's Talk Wheels Radio Network. I'm Mike Herzing. Talk to you next week. Have a great one.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Western Reserve Radio is your home for Cleveland Cobras football action all summer long.
Inside handoff to the tailback. Let's running room to the outside across the 20, 15, 10, and pushed out of bounds at the 5-yard line is Eddie Edwards. It is first and goal for the Cobras. Candaris is going to keep it. 10-5. Touchdown Cobras. Great read by Candaris.
Follow all of the hard-hitting action of GDFL football and the Cleveland Cobras right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
It's time to kick back and listen to the sports page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning sports page. Dave Clark. We're back after our 3-week off, time off. Talk sports as we do it every Saturday morning on Western Reserve Radio, 9 to 11. 330-707-4202 to get in and talk sports. Oh, Dave Clark, there's so much we missed and there's so much to get to. It's almost, where do we want to start? NBA Finals finally here. Milwaukee, Phoenix. Get to look at that. And guess finally, it looks like college players can finally make money and not be hassled and costed by the NCAA. Sometimes I think it almost feels that we've talked about that in the past about the NCAA bullying athletes. I think is maybe, I don't want to think it's an overstatement, but man, it just seems like what the NCAA has done to some of these athletes, going after them for, taking food and getting a free ride in a car, name it. Now it looks like those days are over. They can basically, players can now make money off their likeness, which is about time.
Right.
Just so people understand, the colleges are not paying the athletes.
Right.
And I don't think that's ever really going to happen. But now they have at least paved the way to make players can now go out, and if jersey sales go, we always talked about it on our show, if they can go out to the car dealership as an example, sign footballs or baseballs or whatever the sport is, and can make money, they can now do it,
which is good.
Which is now good. It's going to basically, I hope, give players an opportunity to make the money that I think they obviously deserve. And I know it's not every player's going to make a lot of money, but bottom line is you do open up the door now. And that's it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's about time. It's been a long time coming. I mean, they make millions off of these young men, and on this show and other shows we have been a part of for years, there's been a lot of arguing and people call-ins and everything about, hey, they get a free education. And but that still doesn't put food in your stomach. The education maybe at the end of your 4 or 5 years of study sets you up for the ability to be able to take care of yourself. But during those 5 years, you still need some type of funds in your pocket, food, clothing, whatever it is. Every family is not able to send a few $100s every couple months for everybody to have to take care of themselves. So they should be able to, make money. And I know from the past you couldn't do anything. I mean, you did anything as a violation. So you go there, you scrounge around. People just don't understand. Yeah, your education's paid for, but it is a rough road for other things. And that's not just a student athlete I'm talking about. Just any student, period. If you're on a scholarship, if they're come from a family that just doesn't have the means to give funds like that to keep their child going, it's tough for them. So, you could do anything else. 18, if they wanted to take you and put you in the service back in the day, they could take you and you're serving your country. You're out there fighting against another enemy, but you couldn't get a job.
Right.
As a student, just something is not right to me when you think about that.
Yeah, this is, it makes a lot of sense now that they've figured this mess out. Went to the, ultimately, the courts. At least what happened is the states had approved students making money off their likeness and image. Ohio had just passed the law a few weeks ago, and other states had also been following suit. So the NCAA had to do something finally, because they realized that the tide had turned, and the amateur athletic concept, I think, is pretty much in the rearview mirror of the whole thing. So that's good. The interesting part will now be how or if the NCAA can regulate this.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to regulate it yet. So bottom line is going to be, we're going to have to wait and play this one out.
Right. And see what happens. But there's going to be a lot of legal haggling and things going on over these next couple of years. But this is the first time we've seen some actual light to it. I mean, I thought this day wouldn't even a discussion would ever come.
Well, here's the thing's going to be too. Well, it's just really going to get really interesting. Is they're going to be able, athletes can do a lot off this Instagram. You have YouTube, where potentially they can make millions of dollars. And bottom line is, and I know that the NCAA is not going to allow that, in that they're going to want to come in and put a limitation on how much somebody can make off their likeness and image. And the bottom line is, you're going to ultimately see, I think, another lawsuit down the road. Because when they start to come, when the NCAA says, well, we're going to limit on how much you can make, you and I know that there comes a lawsuit saying you can't do that. You can't limit how much I can make. If I get a YouTube video out of, say, like we talked about that one kicker of a workout, and, people are getting in, and I'm in Instagram, I'm getting all these followers now, and I'm putting out videos of me working out, whatever, and all of a sudden now I'm getting all these hits and advertisers are jumping in and I'm making a bunch of money. You and I know that the NCAA is going to want something of that. Now they know they can't get it all, but they're going to want to limit some. I mean, if somebody hits the proverbial mother lode, sort of to speak, and ends up making $3 or $4 or $5, $6, $7 million, which possibly can happen.
Right.
Then, the NCAA is going to say, whoa, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't make $7, $8 million off your likeness and image. And this is the interesting part's going to be is, well, how are they going to say, okay, what's going to be an acceptable amount? Would limit, and then who gets? Are they going to want? They're going to say after $5 million we get it. Now you're going to get $5 million, but if you get over $5 or $3 million, we want the rest of it. And you and I know that that's not going to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, because someone's going to say you can't limit what I can make off my likeness and image.
Yeah. That's going to
because that's coming. I mean, you could see this because the NCAA just hasn't figured it out. They know now they can't prevent it any longer because they have the law against them.
Right.
And they know they're not going to win because, I mean, they had that they lost that Supreme Court ruling. That didn't have to do with athletes getting directly paid. It was like I looked it up. But in that Supreme Court ruling, they said the Supreme Court really doesn't like the model that the NCAA has out there, which I think they're kind of saying, look, don't come back here again with this because you're going to lose.
Yeah.
In other words, the Supreme Court, I don't think really wants to feel that. I think they know deep down inside that the athletes should be able to get paid for whatever they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be something that they put a limitation some kind of way in, like, I don't know, just like the rookie scale of a player when they come into the league. Just like they could only make, like you were saying, a certain amount. It's going to be hard to do it, but would there be something backlash from the schools per se saying, hey, well, if this particular, let's say it's a 5-star, and we know for just like guys that was coming out, they knew that they're going to be big stars. All the advertisers, everybody knows that. So they buy right in. They're making money. Will they limit with their scholarship that they offer financially to that athlete? Will that be limited now because they have the access to making large amounts of money? That's what I'm wondering. Can the schools come back in a way in which they limit how much they give out now?
Yeah, that's interesting. Here's kind of the ultimate issue they're going to have with this is certain players will make more money than other players.
Oh yeah, that's why I used the 5-star.
How are they going?
Scenario.
Yeah, that'll get interesting because they may try what you're saying, but if the 5-star doesn't end up maybe being as good as what they thought,
and sometimes that does happen,
and we've seen that time and time again. Yep. 5-star recruits don't, they just never pan out, or they never become stars at the university. They play, they play football. They get maybe second string, or they get on the field, but they're an average player at best, or they're on special teams. Yep. They go 4 years, but they never, they never live up to the 5-star rating that they had coming out of high school, and so. That'll be interesting to see if the NCAA can say, well, if they're a 5-star, we're going to limit what they can get. But I think that's what the Supreme Court said they can't do with that ruling coming out of the Supreme. I don't think I got to look that up because I don't think they can't limit college expenses like what they can't.
On their scholarship.
Yeah, on their scholarship.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what the Supreme Court ruled on, is they can't limit the educational expenses that the athlete incurs. They have to pretty much pay that amount. So, that's what I believe that ruling was. They lost that 9-0. Okay. That they can't limit the expenses, that college expenses, educational expenses, so they can't come back in any way and start somehow limit the scholarship on what they can pay if it's related to the education. They can't do that. Okay. That's what they lost, and that's what I believe the Supreme Court ruled on.
Yeah, that's the thing I was concerned about. Yeah, if they would do that, because I just the knowing over the years of how though the NCAA, different from your rest of the college organization, but I'm just saying that I just figured, knowing them, they want all the money they can, so I just thought that would be the next thing they'll be trying to snatch scholarships back, money, whatever it could be. And it would be hard, like you said, to go on a 5-star. I mean, that's the only thing I can see that you can try to do, but some don't pan out. I remember one of the most publicized 5-star guys. There's been a lot of them, but this one sticks out in my mind because I wanted to see how good he was going to be at the time he came to Notre Dame. If people remember the quarterback, Ron Paulus.
Yeah, from Notre Dame.
He was a guy that was talked about. He was on the magazines of Sports Illustrated in high school, everything. That he was going to be the next coming at quarterback. Well, it never panned out for Paulus at all. Whether through college, even a shot at the pros. I think he might even went up in the CFL and tried. But just never panned out. And sometimes guys be 5-stars in high school and they really just hit their peak. And that's it. You know, whereas some guys are 2 and 3-star and they haven't even got close to their peak. They're not even at the midline. And that's why you see some guys that's like that get in the pros and be stars. You're great players because they hadn't hit their prime yet. And that's the thing. So you never know. And like I said, a lot of times it's rankings of people, like they say, the eye test. But the thing is, what eyes are you looking through? What lenses are you really looking to? So that's just a cliche that people say, the eye test, but it depends on, like I said, the lens in which you look through, and everybody's lenses are different. So I could think somebody's a 5-star and you could think they're a 3 or 2. So it all depends on what I like. What's the flavor of the month that I like? That might be the one I pick. And, it's always different because it's an opinion, But some guys you can see an ultimate talent. Certain things they do, you could just see. Anybody can see that. Some people just have great instincts, great running ability, catching the ball with no problem. Things like that you could just see. But to rate them, whether they're 4, 5, 3, I think that's all opinionated.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you've seen. It's almost like the draft. It is, the NFL draft.
Right.
How many guys have we seen, first rounders, don't pan out?
Yeah.
I thought the number was somewhere 50%.
Yeah, because like I said, they could be already at their peak in their college. Now you coming against the best of the best, and you never get to another level. Well, you can't compete with the best of the best when you haven't hit that peak yet. The ultimate peak that you need for the National Football League or Major League Baseball, whatever it is. And when you don't be able to hit that, you basically fizzle out.
Well, it's like high school. You see, the young men coming out of high school being a 5-star, 4-star, 5-star. And they get to a college, they go to a big school, and, they were the the big fish in the little pond in high school. Now they come in to college, and all of a sudden, they're just another fish in the pond, and they end up being a small fish in a big pond. And some of them don't adjust well.
Mm-hmm.
The size and the strength of the players now they're playing against are not the same as the ones in high school. The other thing you always run into high school is you may rate a kid a 5-star, but if their level of competition they're playing in high school isn't that good, then maybe they're really not a 5-star because they're really not playing against very good competition in high school. So they end up getting into college, and all of a sudden, not only is the competition, a little better, it's a lot better. And all of a sudden they're not that good because they're no longer playing against the high school competition, especially if they're in a weak division and they look great, but they're really not playing against really a good quality competition. Because, high school, everybody goes out for the team. It's like everything is, and as the talent, as you move up the ladder, the talent is better. And obviously the players that aren't that good don't even play in college. But
right.
The game is better, the talent around them is better, and all of a sudden now, as they move up to college, they play college, and then if they ever make the NFL, but you could just see the difference in talent. So some of these kids coming out of high school, they get into a college and they may have been a great star in high school, but all of a sudden now they're like, man, these guys are better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the whole thing they're 18 years old, they're away from home, girlfriend, they're homesick. It happens, all the time.
Yep.
And they don't maybe like the college surrounding.
Mm-hmm.
They're struggling maybe with the education part of it because it's different now. So they're doing all these things that are different. And, the reality is some kids adjust and some don't.
Yeah.
And
because it can. College can be overwhelming.
Right. And exactly. I mean, they're walking in maybe if they're from a smaller town, they're going to a big university. They're taken back with the size of the school, the size of the classes. And then, they're adjusting maybe to that. And then it's learning the education part of it and learning everything. It's different then. And then obviously they're on the football field trying to play and realize that these kids their competition is a lot better than the high school competition ever was.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That's for sure. You'll find out quick.
And that's just it. That's why when they rate these 5-star kids, it's, a lot of it's just great. It's, okay, it's your best guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a shoo-in to be a great player on the field. Now, granted, the percentages are in your favor. Nick Saban seems to get all the 5-star kids in Bama. So, well, I mean, it's just the percentages are in his favor. He's going to have better talent because he's getting more 5-star.
Right.
But how, you do read the stories with the kids that were 1 or 2 stars end up in the NFL and end up being an all-pro.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they didn't develop until,
they didn't hit their stride. And that's basically what happened. They learn so much more, and then the natural talent that they have takes over with what they learn, and they just excel.
Yeah, and the other thing you actually do with 18-year-old kids is the body's not fully developed.
Right.
So a lot of kids maybe don't fully develop until they're hitting into their early 20s, like 2021, compared to at 18. So, and then obviously there's kids that they get drafted, they're not kids anymore, but young men get drafted. Remember, 14th round when they had 14 rounds, or the 8th or 9th round, they get picked. Now they don't have 8 or 9. But I'm just saying, you've always heard stories that either guys, or they were the undrafted. Tony Romo out of Eastern Illinois was undrafted and went to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's somebody thought, okay, how good is, he's playing for Eastern Illinois. How good is he undrafted? And he ended up being a pretty good quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. And ends up being better than some first-round draft choices that were picked. Or it could be a second-round, highly touted guy. He was way better. So those things just happen. You just never know what's going to happen on the horizon. So, yep. It's like I said, just opinionated and watch what happens. I always talk about New England doing a great job of drafting, but everybody makes mistakes. A lot of experts were saying when they took N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State, they were saying, why would you take him in the first round? Because he don't separate. But they did take him. And I remember NFL Network guys was looking at it. What's his name? James Jones, the receiver, used to be out of Green Bay. He says, he rated him. He said his hands is like, it's like if you rate him from a 10, he's got 9 hands as far as catching everything. High pointing the ball, can do that with the best. But can he separate? And they said when they showed him playing against, I think they was playing like, I forgot, it was Mesa or somebody, a smaller school.
Right.
He was beating people deep. But when they played USC and they played Arizona and Oregon, he couldn't get behind anybody. Now, did he make big catches in the game? Yeah. High pointing the ball, getting up because he could jump. He can get up. But could he separate? And they showed the separation wasn't as good against those better, high-quality teams. And he said, if you see that in college, the quality in the NFL is out the box. And that's the thing. They said he's not going to be able to separate. And that's what you've seen at New England. He can't separate, but he can catch the football. So you got to find something different for him. He can't. They thought of him being as a number one. There's no way he could be that because he has no separation ability. So they got to find something else for him or trade him or whatever. He wants to be traded anyway. So, But they couldn't get nothing for him right now.
No,
Too
you're
late.
not going to get it. It's too
yeah,
late.
It's too late. They're not going to get anything for him. So they just have to wait it out, play with who they got, and keep him on the roster in case of any injuries. And maybe he'll work during this, training camp and work on some things of getting separation. That means running more crisper routes. A lot of times it's not just speed, but if you run a crisp, solid routes, it can give you just enough separation to get away from defenders. But that's what he's going to have to do, because speed is not going to be the forte for him.
Yeah, it won't be. I think, like you said, maybe you get a different scheme, offensive scheme. Maybe they had him in the wrong scheme, and you have to figure out you still have somebody that can catch.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, like you said, he's not really a number one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put him in the slot? Can you figure out something where, he can still be some kind of contribute to your offense? Can he catch the ball maybe on, the quick patterns out where, maybe they're playing back in coverage?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just right.
They got, and maybe they will be able to find some. Last year they didn't have no receivers.
Well, no, they
got them now with tight ends. I mean, Hunter Henry and Josh,
and
Jonas Smith and all them. I mean, man,
and that's the other thing is he didn't really have anybody around him, and they knew he couldn't make separations, so they could figure him out quick.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they have better tight ends and better receivers, now.
We'll see if he can be effective.
Potentially be effective and have a better year, sophomore year than he did the rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be real important as far as, because you obviously, he's a first-round pick. You want to try to salvage
what you can.
You can, and maybe it's just a matter of putting him in a better scheme. And now that you have better receivers around him, he may be able, to get open.
Yeah.
Where they could key on him before because the receivers. And that, maybe Cam Newton will look better this year.
Yeah. And he said in an interview that he hasn't really been 100% really healthy, felt healthy since probably 2016, 17. Right. And people say, do you believe that? Yeah.
I do.
I think he came back from a lot of injuries too fast, came right back.
Yeah, he had the shoulder and then the foot.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, just too many things. So
he had a lot of.
He said he feels a lot better this year. They said Camp looks good, but Mac Jones been looking good too. So, but I still think they'll stay with Cam.
Yeah, I think
until
Cam
he falters.
Yeah,
Saturday
morning sports page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Quick timeout on Western Reserve Radio.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Saturday Morning Sports Page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark, 330-707-4202. And just the getting into the NCAA, they wanted to limit, to get into this whole discussion, NCAA rules limit educational benefits for college players as part of their scholarships, and then that's what the Supreme Court ruled, that they could not limit educational benefits for the college players. So you were kind of bringing up, Dave, a little bit about could they potentially, if a player could make millions of dollars off of his likeness or her likeness, can the NCAA come in and somehow limit what they could give them on an educational part? And according to this, is they can't.
Good.
So I think the bottom line is, it just said there was another thing, and it said, reading this, in a blistering concurring opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh added that sports traditions near and dear to the alumni and others cannot justify the NCAA's decision to build a massive money-raising enterprise on the backs of the student athletes who are not fairly compensated. Nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers in a fair market rate. He added, the NCAA is not above the law. So I kind of think you know where that's headed.
Yeah.
I.e., I think they're pretty much telling the NCAA, you better let these kids make money.
Yeah.
Because you're making a bunch of money off these kids. They have the right to go out and make money too. And they're entitled, they're part of the shot, part of the pie. And I think the NCAA, I don't think they can limit what these kids can make because they're not going to win.
Yeah. I mean, we know it's going to be some more court things.
Yeah, because I don't think the NCAA is going to go away.
No, they're not going to say,
I think
okay, they got.
They're going to want to get in, but you can see just from the ruling that the Supreme Court is not on the side of the NCAA in any way, shape, and form. Mm-hmm. I know this was like a 9-0 ruling, which means the whole Supreme Court ruled against, in essence, the NCAA. Yeah. So if it was 5-4, you think, well, maybe you could sway one of the.
Yeah.
You not here. It's just like, no, you've got 9 zeros telling the NCAA. My interpretation is don't come back with this anymore because you're going to lose this. So don't think, well, maybe we can still get our, you're getting your hunk of the money.
Yeah.
You just have to have been for many, many years.
Many years.
Now it's time to let the players go out and see if they can make their hunk of the money.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's been nonsense as media has grown and the outlets have grown.
Yeah.
The money was just out the roof of what the colleges was making. And they were making them off these guys that were Heisman Trophy candidates. Even if they weren't, they were these high stars. You just knew they sold the game of college football. And they made money off of that. And they had different things with their likeness that made money.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too, is LeVar Arrington. I've been listening to this show. It's been Brady Quinn. It's in the morning, Outkick the coverage. It's got Jonas Knox, Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington are on. They're pretty good. And LeVar Arrington said, his number 11 jersey in Penn State was like literally everywhere, like throughout the state.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is. And, he's almost like the number 11 in Penn State history. And, he said, if he could have made a dime on each jersey, he would be a multi-millionaire, because he said that jersey was like, and it's still today, I think, sells pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's right. I mean, it's like, now they're talking about, can they give Reggie Bush back as Heisman?
Yeah. You should have never took it.
You didn't take. Yeah. Why did you take?
Why did you do it in the first place? Why did you take that in the first place? I don't get all that. Everything I've done seen over the years, and I don't care what the situation is, even the tragic situation when they want to take guys like OJ or whatever out the Hall of Fame. We gotta departmentalize things, and you can't rave about a guy for years, multiple decades, about one of the greatest running backs you ever seen. Then a tragic situation happens, and the consensus is they feel that he was not convicted of something that he's done. But does that mean he's not a great football player? Just because of that situation, all of a sudden he's a horrible player? He's not one of the greatest, but he was before that. He was always, anytime you've seen anything, he's one of the top running backs ever in history of football. That top 5 always was a part of it. They'll show maybe 20-something running, but sometimes you won't even see him. He'll be an honorable mention on certain things you see, and then sometimes he's just eliminated.
He's eliminated them altogether.
And that's insane. And it's the same thing about the Heisman. When Reggie Bush, when they talk about Heisman Trophy, they act like he never existed. I mean, they don't even show
like
it. They don't talk about it.
When they give out that, like when they give the Heisman Trophy out, that presentation. So then, I never really paid a lot. Is Reggie? So Reggie's. They always have the picture of each Heisman. So Reggie picture is gone now.
Yeah, I think they
all took it out.
They took his picture.
So he took Reggie's picture gone and the Heisman gone. So like,
he didn't do it.
So Reggie Bush just doesn't exist anymore.
He never did anything.
And I mean, the thing with
but is it about his parents? Pat, just tell me that they gave money to his parents, right?
Yeah. Here's what a lot of this. Couple things on this. What happened was Reggie was getting money from a guy, like and the guy was giving Reggie money, and the idea that Reggie was going to make him the agent. That was one thing, and then Reggie's parents were living in a place free, like a rental property, free. Mm-hmm. That a booster was obviously, I believe it was a booster paying.
Right.
Okay, so what happened was the guy had documented all the money he gave Reggie. And then when it was time, Reggie decided, I'm not going to make you, he didn't want this guy to be his agent. And then the guy said, all right, give me my money back. And Reggie said, no, I'm not giving back your money. This is what this guy was saying. This is what the NCAA looked at. So then the guy turned Reggie into the NCAA, and then the NCAA started the investigation and found out Reggie was getting money from this guy. And, well, because there was a 30 for 30 on it. Mm-hmm. And then there was this thing with Reggie's parents getting to live in an apartment or a house free. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. And it's like, I think people are almost like, I don't know how to say this, tired of this, is because somebody gave Reggie Bush $100,000. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, but that's like, all those jersey sales and what he did for the university. It's like, why couldn't they have just said, okay, yeah, Reggie, you shouldn't have taken the money. Either tell Reggie, why don't you just pay the guy back, or just say, reprimand him, but he's gone, he's out of the school, And now that it's so stupid for them to go back and say, well, now we want your Heisman back because you took money.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Here's a news flash. How many other Heisman Trophy players took money?
Yeah. How many other parents lived in
exactly
homes? He's the only one.
Come on now. Reggie Miller. I read Barry Switzer wrote a book years ago, Bootlegger's Boy, the son of a bootlegger's boy. Evidently, Switzer's father was a bootlegger. In Switzer's book, he talks about Billy Sims had an apartment fire, and Billy Sims lost all of his, clothes and belongings, and evidently didn't have insurance. So, i.e., the school and they chipped in and got him, told him go out go buy your replacement clothes and belongings because you don't have any, and we'll pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's an extra benefit.
Yeah.
He took money in clothes and whatever. He and Switzer wrote it up in his book. Yeah, that's what happened. Now, why wouldn't the NCAA then go back and say, well, Billy Sims, we want our Heisman Trophy back because you took clothes and you took extra benefits from Oklahoma when you were there.
Right.
So that's an extra benefit. So we're going to take the Heisman away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it was in Switzer's book. So, it happened evidently. I don't think he'd lie about it.
No.
But the whole point of it
if
is...
he was lying big time, it would have been people coming out trying to sue him, and you didn't hear anything of that nature. So
no.
It was a situation.
He said basically, he talked about the situation, Sims and the fire, and, the school had helped the kid out.
Right.
I don't think Billy Sims came from a family that had a lot of money.
Right.
So, bottom line is they said, no problem. So... at the end of the day, but that's the other thing with the NCAA, and we've talked about it so much time, is they're select. They've always been that way. They're very selective on who they go after, and that was back in the day with Jerry Tarkanian's main complaint with them, when he coached at Long Beach State, and they all knew John Wooden and UCLA had the booster that was basically paying all the players and giving the players everything they needed. Papa Bear, Gilbert. And they all knew that, and yet they were going after Tarkanian because Tarkanian was, giving the kids either some clothes or food or whatever they needed to get by.
Right.
And Tarkanian was always saying, "Yeah, I'm the guy doing 60 miles an hour, and you're in the 55, and there's guys passing me doing 80, but I get the ticket. But you let the guy doing 80, read between the lines, John Wooden from UCLA, and he's a great guy, and he's, all upstanding guy, and everybody knew what was going on in UCLA, that the kids were all getting money and paid because the kids talk.
Right.
And, kids are showing up in practice in their brand new car, and that, the kids didn't come from the background, and where'd they get that?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, the thing is with this whole thing with the athletes, and it's been going on forever.
Yeah.
And kids have been, you hear stories of, guys that knew players and where they lived and what they were driving around, and it wasn't, this is not isolated. This is, I think, going on throughout colleges. It's just a matter of the NCAA deciding on who they're going to go after. And it was almost like they could probably go after everybody and do that. But at the end of the day, that's what you have. It is with this whole, now that the players can at least get compensated through likeness and image, and boosters can now give them money for likeness and image.
Okay.
Because that was also brought out, then everybody's worrying oh my God, what's going to happen? It'll be Armageddon out there because now kids are going to be getting, and I hate to tell everybody, but I think that's been going on for quite a long time.
Yeah, open your eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to open your eyes. Just be realistic. It happens at every level.
Yeah.
There's all kind of things that's always going on.
There's all these different stories.
Yeah.
And it's not this is a revelation.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, I've seen, UCLA, now it came out later that they had the booster who was paying all the players and taking care of everybody. And, I don't mean to say, he wasn't the only one.
Right. Oh, there's many others.
And there are many, many others.
Yep.
It was just that this had come out, after that, Wooden had won all those titles. And actually the NCAA investigated it. And Larry Brown was the coach at UCLA at the time. That was like in 1980. And they ultimately had put UCLA on probation. And it's not, Larry Brown was always getting in trouble with the NCAA because, he, being the pro coach he was probably always violating,
all kinds
he was probably giving the kids, money to get this, go get, get clothes, get what you need. I'll take care of it. Or I'll, here, go buy this,
I remember Jim Brown saying when he was at Syracuse, he used to see guys come in the locker room all the time with envelopes and handshakes here and there. And he said at the time, he wasn't the guy per se that they thought he would become. So he wasn't getting the handshake.
No, he wasn't getting the handshake.
But he said as things developed, and all of a sudden new people were coming around. So he said that's been going on everywhere. And I remember they started saying, well, they don't think that was happening. They named a few schools, I think Notre Dame, a couple others. And Jim Brown said, let's not be naive.
Right.
It happens everywhere.
Right.
And that's what it does. I'm not excusing any school. Somebody's doing something somewhere that's not on the up and up. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, that's a part of it. I mean, when you think you out here trying to get the best of the best and we're competing, you got to, what's going to bring me? We're just talking. So are we going to, in a competition of talk, in negotiations, just talking about coming to our school? Or what can I give or do for you to make my school more really exclusive for you? Well, I'm going to give you this. Just like we heard about when it went so far with our guys down in Louisville where, hey, they were, hey, we got girls, we got this, we got all kinds of things. We got,
he had
unbelievable. I mean,
that's right. They were having the call girls come in
yes,
for the recruits in the hall.
Yeah.
And there was that lady that she was at the madame, and she was the one on talk shows, and she was the one that was making the rounds, wrote a book.
Yeah. I mean,
see, this is what we were doing.
But and I don't even look at Louisville and say, man, look what they were doing.
No,
it's others doing it.
Right.
Come on, they're doing it all kinds of ways.
Right.
Maybe not to that degree that you can see invisibly, where you got a person going around doing books. But believe me, that's not the first time that ever happened.
No, and that's just it. And they all make a big thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I just think that you'll at least now open up the door for these kids to make money.
Yep.
They can get now that schools don't have to pay them. They're not getting money. They will not be paid by the school. So at the end of the day, that's basically a good thing. I think the schools should be relieved that the Supreme Court or somebody's not ruling against them, saying, yeah, you need to pay the players, because it sounds like when you're reading when you're reading the Supreme Court ruling and you're reading that opinion, it's almost like, yeah, the Supreme Court thinks they should be getting literally paid by the school. Now, they didn't come quite that far, but you're reading it and you can say that sounds like the next step. So they're saying, yeah, you should let these kids go out and make money off their name and likeness, because you're getting a big chunk of the money. You should at least let these kids have the opportunity to go do that.
Right, right.
And i.e., don't come back again with this, because maybe the next ruling is you're going to have to start paying these kids. And then they're going to get into the work comp, the union, then do the players get represented by the union? Do they get a union to represent the players? And then you're talking about, and then, you're thinking about all the colleges and all the kids. And even now you're starting to have to pay the backup tackle and the backup linebackers. And, now you're starting to have to, where do you start and stop there? So, at the end of the day, it's just that, this is the way it is. It's about time. I'm looking at lists of the Heisman Trophy, and it says obviously in 2005, Reggie Bush's Heisman was vacated. So he'd won, but they vacated his Heisman. So maybe they'll give his Heisman back. We should only hope that Reggie gets his Heisman back. We'll have to wait that one out.
I'm very interested.
Yeah.
See.
To see how they're going to work that one out. Because Reggie wants his Heisman back. And it's funny. Everybody wants him to have it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, come on. Just get the thing back
right.
to him.
Give Reggie back his Heisman. Move on.
That's all.
It's really funny. I was thinking this the other day. Remember Ohio State got in trouble with the tattoos?
Yeah.
And the players?
Yeah. Unbelievable. Tattoos.
I mean, it was because the players gave a tattoo guy, they got, those little jerseys, whatever they got from Ohio State, and they gave that to this tattoo guy, and he gave them tattoos for their, jerseys and their
so
little
they didn't have
trinkets.
To pay cash.
Right. They didn't have the cash, so they gave the guy, autographed a jersey and gave it to the guy who gave him a tattoo.
Yeah. And, I mean, see, that's what I'm talking about was just dumb.
Right. And now they actually, cost Tressel his job.
Yeah, and then called that, and he's behind.
Right.
I mean, they made it like he was behind this big
scandal.
Yeah. He was just a guy that was terrible. He's behind the scandal with these kids. The Tattoo Gate is what they were calling it.
Tattoo Gate.
And that just is insane.
Now when you think it through,
it's idiotic.
It's total hypocrisy. It's just hysterically funny, sadly, because obviously it cost Tressel his job and what it did to Ohio State. But now you look at it and you think that's all the kids did was they said they gave, it wasn't like that. They gave their stuff that they got from Ohio State to this guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't give him money, gave him tattoos.
But I remember...
But they acted like that was the crime of the century when that happened.
And it was a lot of...
The press, everybody was blowing that up.
Oh, they was killing Tressel about, this guy, he's with his little vest on, he's this, he's that. It was a lot of them that was really putting him through the ringer for that. First of all, he can't control every single kid. If I give you something, you leave and go back to your room and then do something with it. How is that on me? I'm not with you. I can't be with you 24/7. So I mean, it's just...
and here's the other thing: the kids didn't do anything illegal.
No, right. That's the other thing. They didn't steal it.
No,
they didn't do. They didn't have funds. He said, "Oh, I'll take a jersey." Let's say he said that.
That's what he said.
I would love to have a jersey.
And
sign it.
Terrell Pryor, whoever it was, signed the jersey and gave it to the guy. Guy goes, "Okay, now where do you want your tattoo?"
Right.
So you're going to get, and I think they got those, when they beat Michigan, they get those little trinkets, gold pants.
Yeah.
So evidently, I think a player gave the guy that trinket, the gold pants, and the guy goes, okay, I always wanted that. I'll give you a tattoo for that. And he goes, okay. So the guy gave him whatever, like that stuff, in rings or whatever that they had. The kids are never really going to figure, I don't really want this. Or I can get a tattoo here.
Right.
And the guy's giving them tattoos for trinkets. Yeah. That they owned. It wasn't like the kids stole this foot. No, that was theirs.
It's theirs. That's what I don't understand.
Right. That's what I never really grasped. But I know they have that rule that the NCAA put out, I think in 2004, that said players could no longer do that. So at one time, I guess they could do it. And then the NCAA put a rule out and said they can't. And it was almost like, now that you hear this and see it, and people were just... I remember Tressel getting all kinds of criticism from the press and people. It was an outlaw program. Lack of institutional control is what they always throw out. And it was just like, and then we always talked about Quinn Snyder feeding his players, having them over for Sunday dinner. And the NCAA told him you can't do it. And he did it anyway. And then they just he got rid of him and they they were putting him on probation because he's giving the kids food.
And that's another issue, Pat, that really gets me. You and I could be the coaches somewhere.
Right.
we feed our team here in 2021.
Yeah.
And then kids that are in high school, they're the ones affected because if they come to our school, we're on probation for the next 5-6 years. They had nothing to do with that.
No.
So I remember Charles Barkley saying one time, when something like that happened, why do you attack the school? Right. Go ahead to the individual or whatever you got to do.
Whatever you want to do.
They got to pay a fine, or you want them to charity money, whatever. They got the money. They're pros now. Get the money back, money or whatever you want to fine them. But leave the schools alone. Why are you penalizing the school in the future about something that happened in the past? They can find something out, as we've seen, that might have happened in 2005. They investigate and find out about it, and then slap them with a probation and this and that now, when that was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's insane, those rules. That's why you knew it needed to be blown up and restructured, because that's this insane that you would, penalize a school of something that happened a long time ago.
That's it.
Or if it happened right now.
Well, yeah.
Usually these things happen after they done left.
And that's the thing.
That's when you find out the kid is gone. Sometimes the coaches are out of there. A lot of the situations happen then, and then you penalize the new coach and every new kid that's coming on that campus.
Yeah,
it's not right.
It's like we talked. Al Golden was the coach of the Miami Hurricanes when they were going through that big investigation with the NCAA.
Right.
His school was under, and that investigation went on forever and ever and ever. And then they found out that the NCAA, there were irregularities in the investigation, that the investigators were somehow involved, doing, evidently not the right thing in an investigation. And this is now it's like blowing up, sort of, to saying, well, wait a minute here. Yeah. And then the NCAA, after drawing that investigation out for, I think it was a couple of years, then they come back and say, oh, well, after this whole mess, we're not going to do anything to Miami because, well, what we found were minor violations, and we're moving on, because they didn't want their investigation to be exposed for all the problems they had there.
Right.
So then Al Golden said, but you don't understand. You've ruined my team because my recruiting's been down in the proverbial dump because I have players won't come here because of that pending investigation.
Yeah.
So by drawing it out for, I believe it was 1 to 2 years, I lost all these recruits that I could have had because they figured they were going to be on, we're going to be on some kind of a probation, and they can't go to a bowl game or whatever. So I lost recruits.
Yep, and it was true.
Timeout. Western Reserve Radio back after this.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio. WRDB, The Scourge.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
To the radio play-by-play voice and our buddy back from here at Youngstown, it is the voice Fitz. Everett Fitzhugh, my friend, how are you?
Man, it feels good to hear your voice again, Mark. Everything's going well, and definitely excited to be back on the airwaves briefly for here in Youngstown.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
In the small town of Elmira, New York,
a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Saturday Sports Page, Pat Lucci, Dave Clark. I know you just heard Dave said unbelievable. Basically, because we were talking about the Olympics being held in Tokyo, the Summer Olympics for 2021, and they have now indicated there will be no spectators for the Olympics in 2021 in Tokyo. And evidently, the COVID situation is really hit an all-time high, and evidently they've had a lot of people over there with COVID, and in essence, the problem now is they will not have spectators in any of the games in Tokyo. So when it is on TV, you will not see spectators.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be rough. That's we done seen that. See how these athletes react to that, because that energy and juice, especially for an event like that. We know how the football games, baseball, basketball, but the Olympics, that's a worldwide thing, and not to have anyone there is going to be something. That juice won't be flowing.
No.
I mean, it just won't be flowing at all. So
you've seen a real big difference. I mean, I think we haven't talked. We were going to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs, finals, Milwaukee and Phoenix. There's a big difference. I mean, even from last year, as far as the juice, the flow.
Oh yeah.
It's just. I mean, I watched some of it last year, and without having the crowd there.
Yeah, because all you had is, I think, family and certain at the last time, in the bubble. That's all they had, family and a couple other people. So, and then your built-in crowd noise plus those people there. There's a different atmosphere when you watch Phoenix and Milwaukee with all the crowd, even through the playoffs. Just unbelievable energy. Yep.
Between this year, the playoffs, and last year.
Yeah.
Night and day.
That's why I say when they go to Milwaukee on tomorrow,
right,
and watch the energy in that building for Milwaukee this time, it's unbelievable. And Phoenix has played right off of that crowd and has really ignited them, But, speaking of those playoffs, though, I gotta agree with Charles Barkley. He keeps saying Milwaukee will win the championship, but he said, his only problem is they're the dumbest team in the NBA. And I got to agree with him. He said they're the dumbest team in the NBA because they absolutely maul and dominate you when they play inside basketball. He said, but it's for some reason they think they got to jack up all these threes and if anybody was watching the last game, they came out so aggressive and they was playing inside that even though Phoenix was staying with them, I said, if they stay like this, they can win this game because Phoenix was getting all their points for 3-pointers. I think the score after the first quarter is like 29-26, but they hit 8 threes to stay in that. Nobody's going to keep shooting at that clip. So if you keep pounding them and keep pounding them as you've been doing, you will keep that momentum there. And when they start falling off of not being able to shoot like that, you'll have a lead. But nope, they fell right back into their old ways. Phoenix shooting threes, we'll shoot threes too. And the next thing you knew, Phoenix took off and they could never rebound. And Charles Barkley called them the dumbest team in the NBA, and it is. I hate to say that because they did it to Atlanta. Remember, they looked so bad, and then they came back and played inside basketball, and they just destroyed them. And then next game, they went back to the shooting threes again.
And Milwaukee's been a benefit of the injury situation. I mean, they got lucky against Brooklyn because Kyrie goes out with an injury. And, the reality is Milwaukee would have been gone. And if Kyrie and Harden were healthy, Milwaukee loses that. They don't beat Brooklyn. With a healthy Kyrie and a healthy Harden, that series, the Nets win that in 5. And that's not even close.
Yeah. Well, I say that if they can play the way they do now.
Right.
If they play inside, they'll kill them too because
the way this
they're too small.
Right. The matchup is right now with Phoenix, you're right. But Milwaukee's, and then with Trae Young getting hurt, that kind of opened up the door. I think Atlanta could have beat Milwaukee, Trae Young been healthy. I really do. I think
I never would. For me, I was never nervous of Atlanta beating them. I just didn't think they could, whether he's healthy or not, because of what they do.
They were winning that game. Would have been game. They could have gone up 2-1 had Trae Young not got hurt. Trae Young got hurt, and that whole series changed for Atlanta.
I just don't think they could have because you had streaky type shooters. I think he would have kept scoring, but their streakiness of shooting and Milwaukee's dumbness of playing from the outside instead of the inside. I just think if they played inside, they dominate Atlanta regardless.
Yeah, you may be right.
But they don't play like that.
They don't do that.
I don't know why.
And I think
they are big and they play. I mean, even their guards are strong and they play shooting threes.
I mean, the reality is, I just think that you're on the sports page. What's up? Hello.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Dave. How you guys doing?
Hey, Irish Mike. What's going on, man?
Doing well. Hey, a lot of things have happened since we talked. What do we got? The one-time transfer rule is now official. It's gone into effect. So all intents and purposes, you have free agency in college sports now. That the fact that you have a one-time transfer, now you will not have to sit out a season. Now, starting this year, this past year, because of COVID, it went up to July 1st. So any young man who wanted to enter the portal had to let you know by July 1st. Now, for next year and the following years, you have to do it by May 1st. So once spring practice wraps up in the middle end of April, you have to make a decision, you and your family, of whether you're going to stick it out or to move on. And obviously, you have to enter the portal by May 1st to be eligible for that season. You can't wait till June or July next year and still be able to pull that off. I think what happens there, guys, is, and Pat, you and I have kicked this around back and forth the last month or so. I can't believe, Dave, how many kids have entered the portal over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and there's been no takers. Like, they're still sitting in the portal 2, 3, 4, 5 months later, and they can't find a home somewhere else.
Yeah, I know. And I know 2 guys that's actually here at Youngstown State that's sitting in the portal waiting to do something that they probably should have went to these other schools in the first place. But regardless, they can't get anywhere right now. It seems like everything is just at a standstill, and I think part of it is the fact that season they're not counting last season, so they actually like they getting an extra year eligibility. So you got guys that's coming back or have committed to come back. That changes a lot of things about bringing in a player from somewhere else. So, or even those guys wanting to go somewhere else, because now wherever they was going to thought if they could have an opportunity to play in that position, it might be still kind of loaded because guys say, hey, I'm going to take that extra year and stay and play another season. So it's hard right now. It's definitely.
I mean, let's see what happens. See where these kids ultimately end up.
And the other big thing, guys, or probably the biggest thing, and it's not going to get solidified probably till this fall sometime, but it's a mere formality. We're going to go to a 12-team playoff, probably starting as early as the 2023 season.
Yeah, that kind of seems a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
They're going to make that happen sooner than later. And I think a lot of it goes down, and I think you and I have talked about this, they're looking to recover the money they lost at COVID, and I think they feel that this is going to help them. I don't think they're going to recover all of it, but this is going to help recover some of it, because now you're going to have games that mean something, and they should get more money ultimately from TV when they go to a 12-game playoff, and then they'll put bowls involved, and again they'll figure out a way to make more money, and then that will hopefully assist in the losses they had from last year. And that's one reason people believe, it's real funny how that came out of the woodwork, sort of to speak, like, no one was really thinking about that. Then all of a sudden that just was like, hey, they're thinking about going to a 12. They're first they came out, they're reviewing the playoff system. And then it was like a day later, oh, they're going to maybe go to 12 teams. It's like, well, wait a minute. I mean, nobody ever brought this up before, and it was almost like they were stuck with 4 teams. Maybe they'll go to 8, maybe 6. But it was just so strange that they bring it up, and then within a day they go, well, we're going to review different formats. And it wasn't, a day or two later, it's almost like, oh, we're going to go with 12 teams. And it's just like, you've got to figure that one reason why they were doing that is obviously for money, and it's going to recover those losses from COVID. But I thought it was just strange how quick it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see some downsides in this, and let's talk about some of the potential pitfalls in this. I remember this was an interview I saw, guys, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 2015, 2016. Somebody was interviewing Urban Meyer while he was still head coach at Ohio State. And he brought up the fact that when he was the head coach at Utah back in 2004, when Alex Smith was his quarterback, that was his last year in Utah. He was only there 2 years, but they went undefeated that year. And he said, we only played 11 regular season games. And then they beat Pitt in the Fiesta Bowl. I think that at their time they were ranked 4th or 5th in the country, and obviously there was no playoff back then. There was only the BCS and one played 2. And I think when the regular season ended and the playoff or the BCS started, Utah was like 4th or 5th in the country, and they played Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, down the Fiesta Bowl, and Dave won. And they beat Pitt. And he said, we played 12 games that year. Now, fast forward to now he's in the Big Ten in 2015. You played 12 regular season games. Then you played the Big Ten championship game, was 13. And then you had to play 2 games, plus 1, the 15 potential games to win a national championship. He goes, we went from 12 games to 15 games in less than 10 years. Now, let's take a school. I'm just going to use 2 schools as an example, but I'm sure you could use multiple schools here. Let's take a Penn State or an Oregon, who have good football programs. We agree. Are they great football programs? No, but they're very good, solid programs. Let's suppose one of those 2 schools gets to their conference championship game, Pat. Okay, that's game number 13 for them. They're a good football team. They entered their Big Ten championship or Pac-12 championship at 11-1. Okay, they lose their game, say by a touchdown or whatever. But they're still a really good football team. They're still one of the top 12 teams in the country. One finishes at number 10. The other one finishes at number 12. They made the playoffs, correct? They have 13 games in, correct? We agree on it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got to win 4 games to win a national championship because they don't get the first round bye. I'm not good at math, guys, but that's 17 games. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
Is that a lot of football for an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid? Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Right. No, that's right.
If you and you know what's coming, Lucia, opt-out city is coming like crazy now because these dudes are going to figure out by the middle of the end of October we're not a playoff team or whatever.
Yep.
There's no way I'm sitting in here putting my body through a pounding to play more excessive football games.
Oh no, you're right. I think one reason why they want to get to 12 teams is because you'll get less opt-outs. Like, in other words, right now the problem you're really running into with these players is they're playing the season, but if the team is going to a bowl game that means nothing, they're just not playing. Yeah. They're not going to play. They're going to say, well, I'm not going to play that bowl game.
Correct.
And so now if they're playing in bowl games that mean something, these kids are going to play. So that's one reason they go to 12. But, yeah, I think to some extent what you're saying is you're going to see, players opt out. I don't know if they're going to opt out in the midseason or not. I think it just depends on what they think their draft status is. And if their draft stock, will that make their draft stock worse or will it bother their draft stock at all if they opt out? Mm-hmm. That's going to be the question, is would a kid opt out before the season was over?
Yeah, so, that is one of the issues I have, guys. Potentially schools can play up to 17 games to win a national championship.
Right.
So,
yeah.
That is just, that's a concern. That's a lot of football. Because we talked about this, you and Dave, guys, we talked about this for years. When they went, I think it was the 2005 or 2006 season, it was 16 years ago, they went from 11 regular season games to 12.
Right.
And people say, they thought it was going to be great for college football. Pat, you and I were talking back then, and Dave down the old station, and we said, yeah, they added a game, but let's face it, Pat and Dave, most schools added a home game against a team they were going to beat by 6 or 7 touchdowns. The game was going to be 38-3 at halftime. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't go out.
No.
They didn't go out and schedule a top 10 or top 15 opponent. Like, as a lifelong Notre Dame fan, since this changed a month ago that we go on the 12-game schedule, Notre Dame fans across the country have been debating back and forth now, saying, look at our schedules in the future. We don't have to play a home and home with Ohio State. We don't have to play a home and home with Alabama. We don't have to play a home and home with Clemson or Georgia. That don't overschedule yourself. There's no need to do that because you're only hurting your chances of making a 12-team playoff by doing that in September or October. Go out and schedule New Mexico State and win 56-10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in the world of the odds of college football, I guess what I'm getting at, guys, I think the regular season is going to be harmed by this because fans are going to figure out why put yourself in jeopardy in playing a tough game in September and October. You and I are enjoyed by that, but fans want those games in December and January so they can pound their chest and say, look, we're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I guess it could go either way because some schools maybe will get better games in September because teams can say, well, we can lose that game and still make a 12-team playoff.
I understand. Yeah.
So that's the other side of it. And I guess that's more.
You can lose 2 games now, Pat, and make the playoff. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Most quality Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, they can lose probably 2 football games and still make it. Now they might be in the 8, 9, 10, 11 seed and have to play that extra round, but the reality they'll still get in.
Yeah, they'll still get in. Yep.
Right, and I guess that's what the fan like me hopes for, and not the other side of the coin is we're going to continue to schedule the, what I always call the gimme games. So where you're going to win. And that hurts to me. That just continues to hurt college football because that makes certain games and certain weekends bad because there's no good matchups or very limited because there's too many of those games out there that are just mismatched. And I keep beating this drum is that's why the NFL is so much better than college is you don't have that in the NFL and you don't have the big difference between the worst team and the best team. And the worst team in the NFL can beat the best team the old on any given Sunday. Unfortunately, with college, you really don't have that on any given Saturday. When Alabama's playing, the Savannah State of the world or Ohio State's playing Miami of Ohio or somebody, you know that.
I wish those games, instead of what we seen, like what you're talking about, if we seen Alabama play Memphis State or Alabama playing Central Florida.
Right.
Those teams are pretty good. I mean, I don't mind if they're playing those type teams.
Right.
But that stuff that we done seen, West Texas State against Alabama, I mean, we already know what that's going to be all about.
Well, and that's the problem. The problem is the teams in their conference have some easy teams in the conference, which you accept because it's the conference. It's the out-of-conference games that it just annoys me that, again, Ohio State, you sent me that, Irish Mike, you sent me that strength of schedule in the Big Ten, and Ohio State, had the 12th rated?
Maybe 13.
Or
13.
They're 13 out of 14 is out-of-conference schedule, strength of schedule in the Big Ten. That's embarrassing. They're playing nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I ran into one of my buddies, Pat, about a week ago at the grocery store here in town. You know, he's a big Ohio State fan like you. And I said, here's my issues. I'm a college football fan first and foremost. And, you like to, but I love, I watch games from noon till 1 o'clock in the morning every Saturday.
Right.
Yeah. I enjoy that very much.
No, I haven't. Right.
And I've heard so many fans say in the college football spectrum, well, the ACC stinks. It's Clemson and everybody else. And there's a legitimate argument to that. And I'm not saying they're wrong. But in the last 5 or 6 years, there's a legitimate argument in the Big Ten. There's Ohio State and everybody else. So I'm not sure that you can single out Clemson in the ACC and not talk about Ohio State in the Big Ten right now and say your conference stinks.
Yeah.
Ohio State's a tremendous football team. Clemson's a tremendous football team. But you look at their conference overall, and you have a lot of question marks. And Dave, you and I are SEC guys. Just go over the last decade or so. How many national champions have come out of the SEC? LSU, Auburn, Alabama multiple times. You can go back to Tennessee.
Yeah.
You've had multiple teams in one conference who won national championships. You can't say that about the ACC. You can't say that about the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You can't say that about any conference in football besides the SEC. That's why the SEC is the best.
Right.
I don't even think it's close, to be brutally honest with you.
When was the last time a Big Ten school won a national title outright, and it wasn't Ohio State?
Oof.
I mean, Michigan had that one in the 90s, but that was a split. But that was a split. That wasn't an outright one.
94 with Penn State, but they split that with somebody else.
They split that with Nebraska.
Thank you.
Because that was a split with Nebraska in 94.
Ooh. That's a great question, Lucia.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great question.
Yeah. Tell me the last time a Big Ten team won the national title outright, not a split. And I
minus Ohio State, because Ohio State
take Ohio State out, not Ohio State.
They won it 20 years ago under Tressel, and then they won it 7-8 years ago under Meyer.
Under Meyer in 14. Tressel won in 2002 outright. Meyer won it in 2014 outright.
That's a great question.
That's it, though.
What was
the answer to that
last time?
Go back in the 70s.
A Big Ten team won the national title, not Ohio State.
Oh, you said not Ohio State.
Not Ohio State. Take Ohio State out of that formula and tell me, when was the last time?
Oof.
Man. 60s?
That a Big Ten team that was not Ohio State won the national title outright. And they did, because I know the ones, Michigan won, but that was a split.
94
you could say Penn State under Paterno, but they were they were independent back then, I believe.
And they split,
Georgia.
and it was
with Georgia. No,
they were back when Paterno played. It was Nebraska, and the problem they always had was they wouldn't let Penn State play Nebraska because Penn State was tied to the Rose Bowl by contract, and everybody kept screaming and yelling, why can't you have, at the end of the season, because you can't violate the contract, after the season was over, Penn State play Nebraska? And even, I think there was an interview where Joe Paterno said it we want to play Nebraska. Like, right, after this is all over, let's get it on the field. Let's play for the national title. Let's play Nebraska. And they were like, well, no, you can't do that.
Can an argument be made, guys, is this when you're talking about conference football, if the same team wins the conference every single year, that the conference probably isn't that strong?
Well, yeah, I mean...
That's the argument people make about the ACC and Clemson. Well, they win the conference every single year.
Right.
Well, if your team does the exact same thing, can't you say the exact same thing about your conference? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, you got to get into that, and that's a good point. Because,
I mean, with LSU, Alabama hasn't won. There's twice in the last 5 years that Alabama has not won the SEC championship. Twice in the last 5, everyone talks about Alabama, and I realize they've had a lot of success, and they're the pillar of college. I get all that, but, I mean, people act like they win that conference every year, and that's just not true.
Yeah, and that's just it. No, the thing is with it's just that Alabama seems to be dominating, but LSU had the 1 year that they won. So that kind of takes it out. But like I was
1 year,
right.
Georgia played LSU won it, and I think somebody else won the SEC too. That when Alabama didn't win it, I think Georgia. Remember Georgia when Nick Chubb was the running back?
Right.
And they beat somebody, and they got to the Final Four and lost to Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. Or no, they beat Baker Mayfield. The year that I think it was 2017, Devontae Smith caught the championship game touchdown pass against Georgia. It was an all-SEC title game.
Right.
I believe that year Alabama got in as the 4th seed because Georgia won the conference.
Right.
Under Kirby Smart in his first
year. They won
in
it under, right.
So Georgia won it in 2017, and LSU won it in 2019. So
right. But I've been looking at to answer our question of the day.
That's a great question.
And as I'm looking through this, I have not. Now I could start. I have not seen. You want to take this from 1960. I mean, I've been looking at this thing as we've been talking.
You didn't find it, did you?
I found
like
it.
1942. Is it Minnesota Golden Gophers back in the 40s during World War II? Maybe Minnesota.
In 1942, Ohio State and Wisconsin split it in Georgia. And Minnesota split it with Texas and because they always have, back then they didn't have, I have not seen a year that a Big Ten team other than Ohio State has outright won. And to be honest with you, if you pull this thing up and you go back, they all split everything back in the day. Nobody, I haven't seen anybody yet, and I'm into the 20s, and I'm glancing through it as we're talking. I have not seen a team. Notre Dame won it outright in 1943. Right. Army and Ohio State split it in 1944. And in 45, Army, Ohio State, and Oklahoma A&M all split the title then. And then Michigan and Notre Dame split it in 1947. Here it is. Michigan won it outright in 1948. They were 9-0.
Okay.
They won the national title outright in 1948. That would be...
Notre Dame did it in 46, 47, and
Yep.
49, I think.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
At least got a split.
Hold on for... Yep.
Frank Leahy was a soldier in World War II. When he was over in Europe, he found all the great players that still had eligibility to come back when he came back to America to come to there.
Hold on, Irish Mike. We'll be back after a quick timeout. There you go.
So, are you enjoying our station? Well, now you can take us along on your mobile device wherever you go.
Wow!
The free Live 365 app is available for both Apple and Android devices.
That sounds like fun. I'll give it a try.
Just go to the Apple app or Google Play Store and download it today.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
All right. Saturday morning sports page, right back at Irish Mike.
It became the first.
You're back,
African-American
Irish.
Ole Miss in the summer of '62, and Ross Barnett, the governor of Mississippi, did not want to allow him in because Ole Miss had been an all-white university for 120 years. And President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, called the governor and said, if you don't let Meredith in the school, he was going to call the NCAA and have Ole Miss banned from bowl games for the next 3 years.
Right.
And that's when Barnett started negotiating with them.
Okay. We were on break, Irish Mike. I'm
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. But we were. I think I found the answer to the question. It was actually Michigan won it outright in '48. Was the only team to win the.
Unbelievable.
You start looking at all these other years, and there's some debate. Like Ohio State and UCLA won it in '54, but in '68, Ohio State was 10-0. But a couple polls went to Texas was 9-1-1, and they turned around and they gave Ohio State was the national champion in '68, but they said Texas in there because there were a couple polls that had them number one. But I mean, I guess you could maybe make the argument since 1970 or 71, I think they seem to be a little bit more in sync. But as far as Big Ten schools go, you realistically would have to go back to the only Big Ten school to win a national title outright that was not Ohio State would have been Michigan in '48. Was obviously in a whole different era. But as I looked through this, '94 it was Nebraska, and they gave the award to Nebraska, but Joe Paterno, they were 12-0. And Nebraska was 13-0, and that's when there was all that argument and debate is why can't they have Penn State play Nebraska, Penn State 12-0, and they could not. And then in '97, it was split between it was split between Michigan and Nebraska. Nebraska was 13-0, Michigan 12-0, and that was 1997, and they split it. So. And it's really weird how they do this when you look this thing up. But i.e., it just, until they figured it out, you could see that since basically 1970, it seems a little bit clearer on teams that won the national title. But again, you've always had that issue with the split going on. in some years more than others. But since they've had the playoff in 2014, the first year, that's when you have a legitimate national champion every year because you're doing it on the field with the Final Four. But that goes to show you, going back to your initial discussion, is Clemson being the dominant team in the ACC. Now can you say Ohio State has been the dominant team in the Big Ten? And
no question about that.
Conference itself is I guess you have to look at, is the Big Ten overall, though, still a better conference than the ACC overall? And that's your debate, is top to bottom. Even though Ohio State wins it every year, they have a better overall conference top to bottom than the ACC.
You know, with this one-time transfer rule, guys, friends and I kicked this around the last several months, I still think the big dogs are going to benefit from this in multiple ways. Here's one way. Kids are still going to flock to Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, the big dog, Notre Dame, and, those schools that recruit well year in and year out. Those kids are still going to go there. And they might even take more kids now with the idea of a kid might go there with the idea, well, I'll try it for 1 year. And if it doesn't work out for 1 year, I'll just enter the portal and I'll just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Or maybe even 2 years and I'll go somewhere else because I don't have to sit out that year now. So I'm not really taking that big of a chance. It might be 9 months of my life and I went there and didn't work out. I can go to another school. And the flip side of that coin, we'll use the Big Ten. Rutgers gets a diamond in the rough, a great wide receiver or, great running back, whatever, and he has a tremendous freshman year. Just to say, wow, this kid's a lot better than what we thought. Right. All of a sudden now the big dogs come calling for him.
Right.
We didn't recruit you 12, 14, 18 months ago, but now we want you.
Well,
enter the portal, we'll take you.
Well, then and it goes the other way too, because you're going to have kids that go to a big school and they may not be getting any playing time. And now they're going to say, I don't want to be a second or a third string on the depth chart. Mm-hmm. I'm getting called by this other school, and they're talking I can start right away. So I'm going to transfer to another school, maybe another school in the conference or another school from another conference.
Yeah.
So this will be really interesting as you kind of look through this, as far as how is this going to impact these other kids, as far as ones that aren't playing. They normally stayed at that school because, they didn't want to sit out the year and they were going to get their degree and be the second string center or the second string linebacker. Yeah. Now they're figuring, no, I'm going to go and transfer to another school because I'm going to get to play now. And I don't have to sit out that year. So
I'm going to give you guys a scenario. Let me see if you think this happens in college football. Dave Clark goes to Penn State. By the middle end of October, Dave's disenchanted with playing time. He's been at Penn State, went to spring, graduated high school early, entered in January. Now it's 10 months later, and he's a backup tailback, and he's not happy at Penn State anymore. This wasn't what he thought it was. Dave contacts his mom and dad and tells mom and dad he's not happy. Mom and dad contact his old high school coach. They know him. He lives 4 blocks over from him. That high school coach contacts several schools that also recruited Dave Clark 12 to 18 months earlier and asked them if they would be interested. If Dave entered the portal, now he's not entered anything yet, so legally Dave Clark and they can't talk to one another because he's playing for Penn State. And all of a sudden, once Dave gets knowledge that there's 3 or 4 schools definitely interested in him, and if he enters the portal, they'll take him, Dave Clark enters the portal 2 or 3 weeks later. Do you think that happens? Is that going to happen, or is it happening?
I think it is happening.
Yeah, it's happening now.
I think that does happen.
It's tampering without tampering. Does it make sense to you guys?
Yeah, I
agree with you. I mean,
using a third party that can never get in trouble to say, hey, I have a former player you recruited a year and a half ago, and he's at said school, and he's not real happy there. Now, he hasn't entered the portal yet, but he's strongly considering it. If he enters the portal, would you be interested in him?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that
then all of a sudden, now 3 or 4 weeks later, that young man enters the portal because he knows there's 2, 3, 4 schools out there that he could go to and find a destination for his services.
Well, here, let me throw this at you. Now that these players can make money off their likeness, they can get agents to represent them. Now you've got that agent is that third party who can go out and do exactly what you've said. Is he can get in contact with schools and say, hey, I see I've got a guy might be interested in transferring there because he doesn't get the playing time that he's getting at school A, and now he wants to go to school Z, and he's going to go ahead and he's interested. Then they could say, well, okay, yeah, we've seen some tape. We've got this. Yeah, we're interested in him. The agent gets back to the kid and says, okay, I've contacted the school for you, and now you can maybe transfer there because the coach is interested. He's seen some of your film, your tape on YouTube, and he thinks that you got good technique, and so you can transfer there. So I think you're going to, now that you've kind of got the situation with kids making money off their likeness and image, they can have agents to represent them. So I think you're going to see.
While they're in school now.
Yeah, I believe they can have agents representing them now when they're in school.
Well,
I may be wrong. I'm not 100%.
I don't know about that, Pat.
Yeah.
I haven't read anything.
I don't know if
that would be news. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that would be news.
And
to
I
me.
don't.
Yeah.
That's new, but I don't see From what I heard this past week, they were kind of talking about it it was Brady Quinn and Jonas Knox have that show, and the LeVar Arrington was on with them, and they were kicking all this around, and they were even saying the NCAA doesn't even know how to handle all this. Like they don't.
It's a lot.
They just don't know that, they don't know if they can.
Let's be honest, guys. This is a logistical nightmare.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah.
And Jay Billis said this, now we can call them athlete students for the first time because,
Right.
We've all known for decades there's kids in college and universities that's places they don't belong. They're there for one reason and one reason only. We understand that. We get that. But now I think it makes it harder because, hey, I'm not going to go to class at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning playing video games because I'm getting paid $100 every time I play a video game against people.
Right.
And I was up for 2 hours playing a video game against somebody up until 3:30 in the morning. So I'm not getting up in the morning 8:30 to go to a class now.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be
making money playing video games against people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you guys laugh. I'm just being dead serious.
Well, I mean, a kid staying up at 2 o'clock in the morning working on his YouTube video for his workout because he's making money off of that. So you have a student. I mean, there was a cheerleader, a young lady making money. She had a cheerleading video out there. She's a cheerleader for her school, and she had a video out there of her doing her cheers and her workout. Supposedly she had all these followers and making millions off it. And the whole point of it is it's just not going to be men athletes, but it's going to be the women athletes that are also going to be cashing in on this. And then, you're getting into, does it affect their schoolwork? But like I sent you that text when Notre Dame says the student athlete, they're thinking of their student athlete when they're making the schedule and they're making these kids travel all around the country to fit their need because they want to have the Notre Dame football players play in Texas because it's a national game. Do they really care that the players are going to not be in class for that week or whatever? Come on.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, give me a break with, this is the whole thing. And when
Big thing is, Pat, they want to play, the big thing is they might play BYU next year in 2022 in Las Vegas as a neutral site game in Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Why would they do that? Because
and
of
then turn around 3 weeks later and travel back out to L.A. play the USC Trojans out in L.A.
Right.
So you're going to fly your kids across country twice in a matter of 3 weeks.
And what about their grade? What about them going to class and getting good grades? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I read this guy.
Hey, I showed you that op-ed from Father Jenkins he wrote in the New York Times, and I've had several Notre Dame fans reach out to me and say, "Boy, Kelly's got to be pulling his hair out, saying, Father, you should be writing that stuff."
Right. He shouldn't, because it's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Because
he's looking at it from a standpoint. I had a guy tell me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I won't say his name, but he's a big Notre Dame fan. He works down there, and he's done a lot of things for the university over the last 40 years, and a tremendous asset to the university. And he told me that in the world of recruiting college football, for Notre Dame to be up to that echelon with the Alabamas, Ohio States, LSU, those type of programs, the Clemsons of the world, and win national championships, is they have to have kids, at least 5 to 10 quality kids, who pick Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, for football first. It's a football decision, only decision.
Yeah.
That's the main reason why they're there, is to play. Notre Dame prevents the academics. Their thing is 4 years, 4 for 40. You graduate, you're going to have a degree from Notre Dame. You're set yourself for life. Even in football, you never played down in the NFL. You can make a lot of money and be very successful with our degree.
Right.
And some kids buy into that, but a lot don't. Let's be honest, guys. It sounds good, but they don't buy into that because they're going to be multimillionaires in the NFL. That's what they see at age 17.
Right.
Yeah, and that's and that's
And their mom and dads think that way too.
Right.
Let's be honest. A lot of parents think the exact.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
I have a 17-year-old son's a quarterback. I have a 16-year-old son's a running back.
Yep.
He's going to play 10 years in NFL and be a multimillionaire.
Sometimes
They're
they had
thinking
the
that when
dollar
kid's
signs
16 years
first.
old, entering his junior year of high school.
The parents sometimes have the big dollar signs in their eyes even for the kids. And that's I could tell that. Yeah, you could tell how they talk and how they put forward to push these guys or young ladies to be to a certain level. And some of them just want to have fun, just being a kid. But now it's changed to a different level because that parent is like, hey, that's my meal ticket. Let's go. Yeah, I'm serious.
No, that's.
You're right. I'm laughing because you're right.
Yeah. Or they see their career through their child's life, and that's the thing. You got to be able to separate that. Yeah, but it's not. It happens all the time,
and that's why these coaches in high school are going nuts, because a lot of these parents now are getting more aggressive with the coaches, telling them, you got to play my all-star kid because he's my or she's my meal ticket, and I'm not. I want she needs or he needs to be getting minutes because he needs the scholarship because he or she's going to the next level, the professional level, and I got to cash in on it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Especially with the men, because it's the NFL, the NBA. So mom and dad are pushing those coaches at that level to play their kids because the kids got to get the scholarship and then ultimately the professional contract.
Yeah. And with this NIL, guys, I think American capitalism, some kids are going to make a lot more money than others.
Right. And that's the other problem that came up. They were talking a little bit about that on that Outkick show with LeVar Arrington, and Brady Quinn talked a little bit about, is there going to be dissension in a college locker room when one of could it cause dissension because the star, maybe the quarterback, who's a great quarterback, and maybe he's kind of, the players like him but don't like him, sort of to speak. He's getting all the endorsements and making all the money off his name, and the linemen are doing all the blocking and the dirty work, and they're not getting the endorsements that the kid's getting. Is there's going to be dissension in the locker room? It's like, I guess. And then the other ultimate situation is you just got to remember they have to pay tax on all this money.
Yeah.
So just remember that, because how many times have you read where baseball players are going, they go to a card show and they sign autographs, and they make money and they don't report it to the IRS. And 3 or 4 years down the road, the IRS is knocking at the door saying, hey, you owe us back taxes because you never paid tax on this money. I mean, remember the time the umpires were in baseball were all getting in trouble because they were upgrading?
NBA referees got in trouble.
The
too.
referees,
they were changing first-class tickets for coach seats and pocketing the difference. And they did that for years and got caught. They owed like $300,000 in back taxes over a 5 or 10 year time period or something.
Because they were doing it So they were pocketing all that money and they never reported tax on it.
Correct.
And the IRS came back knocking at the door saying, you owe us back tax on all the money you pocketed. The difference between coach and first class. So you're right. So, I mean, that's what will come of this with the players making money is a good thing, at least off their name. They will also have to be cognitive of the fact that they're going to have to pay tax on every cent they make.
Right.
Well, Pat, not trying to be funny here, but will a school like, let's say, a University of Oregon benefit in football and basketball? Oregon's been a quality football program for the last couple decades, especially, and it really rose under Chip Kelly. And, Mario Cristobal's still got the ball rolling out there for sure. Well, because Phil Knight, in his association with Nike, he does a lot for the University of Oregon. And will they benefit from this, you believe, over the next 5 or 10 years, this NIL?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be something.
That's good.
Kids see more of an economic opportunity and say, I wasn't even looking at Oregon before. Now, if you notice recruiting, especially football in the last more kids are looking to Oregon now than they have, like, say, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I don't think that's a coincidence anymore, especially with all these NIL rumors been around for the last 2 years.
And when you could change your helmet every game.
Yeah.
I mean, they have different. How many sets of uniforms do Oregon have?
Well, here's my question then:
Unbelievable.
Does the kids, can the kid himself, can the star player who's got a popular jersey, can now say to Nike, "I want a part of the, I want part of the money here." I'm just thinking, like, in other words, if these players now, how about if the star quarterback, goes out and gets a deal with Adidas to wear socks by Adidas and has Adidas socks to wear? I mean, they can't, or how he doesn't want to wear a Nike jersey, but he wants to wear an Adidas jersey because Adidas is going to pay him money to wear their jersey and Nike is not. So then does the player go, hey, here's my jersey. The only difference is instead of the Nike swoosh, I've got the Adidas logo on it. I'm wearing that because they're paying me.
Right, yeah.
So how does this play out?
It's going to be interesting down the road.
Right.
Let's see.
Hey, I know we 7, 8 minutes to the top of the hour. With this 12-team playoff, and Pat, we banned this back and forth about a month ago before you guys, took your summer hiatus. Right. Hypothetically, Notre Dame can go 12-0, and the best they could be is a 5 seed because they don't play in a conference.
Right.
Okay. And we're still going to have our conference championship games, as you guys know. Lucia said there's way too much money to be made there. Those are never going away. Okay.
Never.
So, obviously, where the administration Notre Dame comes down to is the fact that by not playing in the conference game, the first weekend in December, they will always have a bye. So they get 14 days off. Now, obviously, that will require them to win 4 tournament games to be national champion compared to 3. But that first round of games, guys, are going to be on college campuses. So they look at it and say if they're the number 5 seed or 6 seed or 7 seed, they're going to play a game in South Bend, Indiana on December 19th or December 20th. And maybe they'll get to play a Florida State in South Bend. They look at that as an advantage because they're going to get a home game for one of those tournament games. And then the quarterfinal, semis, and then the finals go to neutral sites, which I disagree with, by the way. I think we want to try to keep I would prefer the quarterfinal games to be on college campuses as well, because I don't think it's fair to ask fans to travel and spend all that money to watch their kid play for 3.5 weeks and spend tens of thousands of dollars traveling from one big city to another to watch their kid play. But I want to get your thoughts about that. Is the Notre Dame administration correct about that? That they have their natural bye now because they don't play in a conference championship game, so they'll be sitting home eating bonbons while other teams compete. And if they lose their conference championship game, they're still going to make the tournament, but they'll have to turn around and play again the next week and win 4 games in a row because of the fact that they're no longer one of the top 4 seeds and get the automatic bye. Your thoughts?
What do you think, Dave? Yeah.
Is he right, or is people saw this and say, "Well, Notre Dame's got to join a conference. They have no choice now. They're going to have to join the ACC full time." And I was told by multiple sources in South Bend that's not going to happen because they have their bye week now in the conference championship weekend. They're going to have that week off. They're going to have 14 days to get ready for a home game.
I don't think it'll affect them as much now if they have with the 12-team playoff situation as when we had the 4, when they put all that pressure on them to be in a conference. I think with 12 teams, they don't have to now.
Yeah, I think that they'll just Notre Dame's going to do what they're going to do, and they'll just accept the fact that they're not going to get the bye. They kind of have a built-in bye, but they still have to play 4 games. They're not going to get if they join the conference, they could get away with playing just 3 games, but that's not going to, and I think
they look at it as a conference championship game. You assume when you play in that game, it's going to be a tough game on you physically. You're playing against a good football team because you got 2 teams from the same conference playing for a conference championship.
Right.
I think I agree with you. A conference champion winners like Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson, they're going to get a bye the first round and require them to win 3 games to win a national title compared to 4.
Right.
But, whenever you play a big game, guys can get hurt. Something can happen. I don't know who's right. I mean, I see both arguments of this. I see the argument, no, they got to join the ACC full time. In case they lose that conference championship game, you could still get in the Final Four
Right. You could,
or the Final 12, but that would still require you to play 4 more games.
And I think it's more vital being in a conference in basketball than it is as far as football is concerned.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so I think they'll get away with not having to be in, especially like I said with the 12 team. They'll be one of the top elite.
Yeah,
12
they're going to be.
teams
I think they'll
most
pretty
times.
much most of the time they're going to be one of the top 12 every year.
And as long as, Pat, they're 5, 6, 7, or 8, their philosophy is we're going to host the home game in South Bend on December 19th.
Right,
You
and
know what I
that's
mean?
it. As long as they stay right if they get it high enough, they'll be in that rating where they'll be hosting.
They look at that quote as an advantage,
right?
To get that home game as one of their playoff games.
And then they're then they're just kind of looking at it as just another game on the schedule. But now it means a lot because it means they win and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think, Pat, normally we're used to the national championship game being like January 11th, January 12th, January 13th. I'm thinking now it's going to be probably more like around January 25th now, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Because I don't think you can kill these kids and say, we're going to do this 4 straight weeks in a row. You're going to play Saturday. I don't know. There's got to be that 8 to 10 day window in there to get with 16, 17 games. You got to give them a chance to physically recover.
Yeah, because now they're basically the NFL.
Yeah. Right.
Now they are the NFL because now they're playing 7. Some of these kids are going to be playing 16, 17 games. Now you're basically playing the NFL schedule.
Yeah.
Only you're doing it in college. Now we know they're professionals. We knew it all the time, but now you're actually making them play enough games where
now you're officially acknowledging.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
How soon do you think they'll come with this playoff system? What do you think?
I think 2023 is probably the fall of 2023 is I think what they're going to shoot. I don't know if it's going to be any earlier than that. I think they would I think they could do it if they wanted to, but I think 2023 is probably the year they're going to do it. That fall of 2023 will be the match for so we're 2 years away.
Yeah.
Maybe 1, but probably 2. I would say probably 2 years.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see.
Yeah.
But they should have been did it because it was
That's what I was
from the
told,
beginning.
guys. When we had the conference championship game, say on December 6th, I was told there's going to be a law. There's going to be a 2. So Notre Dame looked at it and said we might have a 21-day layoff because they're not going to play conference championship games on December 6th and say we're going to start the first round of the playoffs on December 13th. You mean?
No, they're not.
They're going to match the teams up and give the weeks, 12 or 13 days to get ready for that first game. That's what I was told. As far as that goes.
That sounds right. They're not going to that would make them the NFL if they don't get them. Then we would know they are the NFL. You even just call them NFL 2. Let Roger Goodell take over.
And that's why I think, Pat, you're going to have a national title game probably like around January 23rd.
Oh, no,
January 25th.
You may be in the early February, and then the NFL is going to have their Super Bowl the end of February. You're going to have, football is going to run up through February. I'm convinced it will.
Because some of these teams get a bye in the middle of October, and they're going to play 6 or 7 games plus their conference championship plus 4 more. They're going to play 12 or 13 straight weeks, and I don't think that's feasible.
No, that's it, man. Hey, thanks for the call. Okay, everybody stay safe. Buckle up, get your vaccine. Saturday Morning Sports Page.
Hi, it's Mark Means, host of By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the... Question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
To the radio play-by-play voice and our buddy back from here at Youngstown, it is the voice Fitz. Everett Fitzhugh. My friend, how are you?
Man, it feels good to hear your voice again, Mark. Everything's going well, and definitely excited to be back on the airwaves briefly for here in Youngstown.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Miss an episode of By All Means, and you could miss a lot.
I have the sound up, and I appreciate the guys that do the work now. But it is with great appreciation I see what the guys do, not only the announcers, but also the players. So we've had wonderful playoffs. I mean, single, double, triple overtime games. It's been fantastic.
By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio and streaming live on westernreserveradio.com.
So why do teenagers play high school sports?
My reason why is a sense of purpose.
My reason why is to inspire others.
One reason student athletes seldom mention is to get an athletic scholarship. They know that only 2% of all high school athletes are awarded a sports scholarship. So why do they play?
My reason why is friendship.
Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
The Storks are bringing me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't? Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No. Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. Cool. Very cool. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
the most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Mill Creek Golf Course has been the Valley's leader for golfing fun since 1928. It features 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross and was voted a top 30 municipal facility by Golf Week in 2012. The Mill Creek Golf Shop is a certified Callaway Golf custom fitting center and is stocked with your favorite golf apparel and accessory. Mill Creek Golf Course is now booking tee times for this year's golf season. Please call us at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in, and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Relief. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and talk to our professional parts people about AC Pro refrigerant recharge kits for your vehicle. Buy now and you'll get a $15 gift card after mail-in rebate. Keep cool this summer with AC Pro refrigerant at O'Reilly Auto Parts, in store or at O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is High Frequency.
Let's start the show.
On the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage. Home loans that fit your life. Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Kevin Zipak.
Welcome back into the SportsMap Radio Network. This is hour 2 of the program here on your Saturday morning. Welcome on in. My name's Kevin Zipak. Live from the Houston, Texas studios down here, SportsMap HQ, deep in the heart of Texas. Hope you're having a great Saturday anywhere that you may be listening, whether it's online, sportsmapradio.com, the easy-to-use SportsMap Radio app, or, of course, coming through the speakers on any of our lovely affiliates nationwide. My name's Kevin Zipak. Sean Mapes is my producer this morning. The previous hour of the program on SportsMap Radio brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. Need to know what it takes for a home loan to fit your budget and your family? Rocket can. Whole heck of a lot going on right now in the wide world of sports. NBA Finals ongoing as Phoenix up 2-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks as that series shifts to Milwaukee tomorrow for Game 3 of the series. Major League Baseball All-Star Game coming up on Tuesday. Home Run Derby coming up the night before that. Shohei Ohtani, the main attraction. I think it's pretty safe to say for that one. Interested to see... I don't want to say I'm interested to see the television ratings for the Derby because I don't really give a damn about the television ratings. I went into all that earlier, not too much, but I mentioned earlier the television ratings down big time from a few years ago this year for the NBA Finals between Phoenix and Milwaukee. One, we all kind of knew they were going to be. Chris Paul has been around for a while. He's the biggest star in this series, but he's not really a draw in the way that LeBron James is and was. He's not a draw in the way that the Golden State Warriors dynasty was, and I think if you went back a little bit further with the data here, I mean, everything on television, you know, with the rise of streaming and everything else, ratings are pretty much down for everything across the board outside of NFL football. I mean, NFL football is kind of its own entity, and that's the only thing that really hasn't gone down rating-wise. But as far as the NBA ratings, I mean, people make a big deal about it, and people want to bring it up and this and that. I don't really get why people think it's a huge deal. It's not like the NBA Finals are going to be canceled and you're not going to be able to watch it. Like, the ratings could be as low as they've ever been. You're still going to be able to turn on your TV and watch it. This isn't, The Voice or The Masked Singer or some show where it's dependent on television ratings to stay on the air. Oh, my God, I got to watch this show or it's going to get canceled. It's the NBA Finals. It's always going to be on. We'll be back here in a little bit on SportsMap Radio.
Hi, break time?
I know you.
I'm Cologuard, a prescription colon cancer screening option for people 45 plus at average risk. It seems like you take care of yourself.
I do. I play tennis. I try to eat well.
What about screening for colon cancer?
Not yet.
Don't wait. Colon cancer is more treatable when it's caught in early stages.
Tell me more.
Cologuard is non-invasive and is used at home. It detects altered DNA in your stool to find 92% of colon cancers.
92%?
Yep, even those in early stages.
This was seen in a clinical study with patients 50 and older. Any positive result should be followed by a diagnostic colonoscopy. False positive and negative results may occur. Cologuard is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Do not use if you have had adenomas, have inflammatory bowel disease and certain hereditary syndromes, or a personal or family history of colon cancer.
Most insured patients pay $0. Ask your provider or an online prescriber if Cologuard is right for you, or visit requestcologuard.com.
I'm on it.
Excellent.
Over 2.5 million airline passengers fly every day in the United States. Those passengers depend on reliable airplanes, and those planes need certified aircraft technicians. That's where you come in. We are the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, and we train tomorrow's technicians. We train our students hands-on with real aircraft, develop their skills, and prepare them for real jobs in the industry. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the average aircraft technician in the United States makes over $62,000 a year.
The job opportunity is there. The money is there.
If you want to work with your hands, it's a perfect place for you.
Call 800-876-0097.
I'm very impressed with the AIM curriculum. The school's keeping pace with the demands of the industry.
The potential for growth is astounding.
At the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, we train tomorrow's technicians.
800-876-0097. 800-876-0097.
Auto Accident Help Desk is a marketing agency connecting callers with attorneys. Providers pay a fee for advertising services.
I love getting my kids ready and driving them to school.
But a careless driver can change your life in an instant, and insurance companies want to settle on the cheap. Auto Accident Help Desk connects victims with powerful lawyers. They fight for you.
I called Auto Accident Help Desk and got help for my pain and suffering.
Don't let an insurance company take advantage of you. Our attorneys fight and beat big insurance every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859.
If you've been injured in an automobile accident in the last 6 months, you owe it to yourself to make this free call with no obligation. We're available 24/7 to help you get the money you deserve for your pain and suffering. Auto Accident Help Desk helps accident victims like you every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859. That's 800-528-6859.
This is High Frequency on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage. Home loans that fit your life. Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Kevin Zipak.
Breaking news here on the SportsMap Radio Network on a Saturday morning. My name's Kevin Zipak. Hope you're doing well wherever you may be. As we dive right into the weekend here, we have a Wimbledon winner on the women's singles side. Ash Barty has defeated Karolina Pliskova in 3 sets for her first Wimbledon women's singles title. Sean Mapes, my producer this morning, what do you know about an Ash Barty?
Well, I know, first of all, that she's the 2021 Wimbledon winner.
Correct, 1 for 1.
And that's it.
That's about all you need to know. She's from Australia. I will be honest, I'm not familiar. You know, call me a casual, if you will, but once Serena is out of a tournament, it's kind of hard for me to pay attention. And I like tennis. I enjoy watching tennis, and you know, of course, anytime it's Wimbledon, the French Open, the Aussie Open, U.S. Open, any of the majors or the Grand Slams, as they're known in the tennis world, I pay attention to them to a point, but right now, you know, after Serena bowed out, it was kind of tough for me to pay attention. Anywho, there's a little breaking news for you on the program this morning. Wanted to get into some NFL headlines. There's still a whole heck of a lot I haven't gotten to on the program here, but I do want to get to some NFL stuff as training camps pretty much underway across the league. Certainly rookie mini camps and the mandatory stuff. Everything's going to be up and running before we know it. So I wanted to get into a few things here that I alluded to a little bit earlier in the program, particularly in the AFC and some of the quarterback situations going on there. First and foremost, starting with the New England Patriots, as their incumbent starting quarterback Cam Newton has revealed on his YouTube channel that his shoulder's been injured since 2016. I mean, I believe it. Listen, Cam Newton, whether it was him at Auburn or with the Carolina Panthers, I mean, he is built like a linebacker at the quarterback position and was certainly never afraid to scramble out of the pocket or run into a defender or put his body through any kind of car crash scenario. So I don't doubt that Cam Newton has been banged up. I mean, if you've watched the guy play over the past few seasons since he was in that Super Bowl with Carolina in 2018, I want to say, he's not been the same player. And there's a reason that Carolina moved on. There's a reason that he is not making as much money as I'm sure he would like to be making right now as the quarterback of the New England Patriots. But apparently he says the shoulder hasn't been right since 2016. Cam said that his shoulder now fully recovered after he felt like a, quote, wounded dog over the past couple of seasons. It's tough for me to, and I don't want to denigrate Cam Newton or really call him a liar or doubt him or anything like that. Because, again, fantastic player in his day. But I think, his style of play, the way that he went about it, that's not the best thing you can do in terms of longevity. If you're looking to play and play at a very high level for 15, 20 years in this league, which is, damn near impossible to do anyway, unless you're a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, who has been around forever and is still, maybe not playing at his highest level. Ben is not at his peak anymore, but, played somewhat of a similar style to Cam in his early days. Ben is another guy who was built like a brick house, just a big son of a gun, who would take a lot of hits and not shy away from contact, anything like that. But Ben Roethlisberger, very much the outlier, the exception, not the rule. He has taken his lumps and managed to stick around and keep his starting job in Pittsburgh for, a decade and a half. I think he was drafted in 2004. They made the Super Bowl in 2006. Ben Roethlisberger is going to the Hall of Fame. Like I said, very much the exception and not the rule. Whereas a guy like Cam Newton, former MVP, got into a Super Bowl, was a fantastic player in his day. It's really tough for guys, though, in the NFL to come back from that many injuries that have accumulated over that long of a period of time. The NFL is a violent, physical sport like none other in the world right now. You might even say, maybe you could say rugby, but I've never watched rugby and I don't understand the rules, so I won't. But Cam Newton is a big season for him. It's a big season for the Patriots. Obviously, they drafted Mac Jones in the first round, quarterback out of Alabama, to be presumably the heir apparent to that storied quarterback position in New England. And, of course, Tom Brady made it storied. The much-publicized breakup between Tom Brady and head coach Bill Belichick before last season as Tom Brady moved on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think we all know what happened there. Worked out pretty well for old Tommy as he got his seventh Super Bowl ring. He's going to run out of fingers here pretty soon, so he better stop. He better not win again. But it's going to be tough for Cam, and it's going to be really interesting to see, I think, how that develops in New England. Year one after the big Brady-Belichick breakup, that's a lot of alliteration there, the Brady-Belichick breakup, bust-up, bombastic bust-up. I could go all day. I won't, though. I'll stop for everybody's sake. The Patriots obviously struggled. The Buffalo Bills, there's some more alliteration for you. The Buffalo Bills ascended to the top of that division with Josh Allen, their quarterback, playing at a MVP-type level. But I think Tampa Bay and what Bill Belichick has done this offseason, not only in the draft but in free agency, you can already see New England gearing up for another run. They're better than the Jets as we sit here right now. They're certainly better than the Dolphins. So despite the fact that they lost Tom Brady and that they have taken a little bit of a step back in the first year without the GOAT, New England does seem to be primed to be heading back in the right direction. Now, is Cam Newton the right quarterback in 2021 to do that? Is he healthy enough for them to do that? That remains to be seen. Again, it's always going to be tough for a guy like Cam who's taken so many hits and had so many injuries, not only to his ankle, his knees, his shoulder, everything. It's going to be really difficult for him to play at the level he was at when he won the MVP a few years back. But I don't think they really expect that from him. I don't know that anybody expects that from Cam Newton here in 2021. I think really what Bill Belichick is probably expecting from Cam Newton this season is to play good enough, play complimentary football. Don't go out there and play hero ball, and don't try to be Cam Newton of 4, 5, 6 years ago and try to scramble. And we can scramble a little bit. But don't venture too much outside the pocket. Don't take too many hits. Don't expose yourself too much because you're not the same guy that you were that many years ago. So I think you're going to see a stylistic change, certainly. And there's going to be more talent around him. You know, Cam Newton last year and the Patriots in general were really not that talented of a team. But as I alluded to, you know, Belichick restocking in the draft, in free agency, you're going to see a big jump from last year's Patriots to this year's Patriots, I truly believe. Now, are they going to compete for the division title? That's tough because the Buffalo Bills look to be one of the better teams in the AFC. I mentioned Josh Allen, their young quarterback, playing at an extremely high MVP type level. You know, he's going to be in the conversation for that award here in the upcoming season. You would imagine they're stacked at the receiver position. They've got talent up and down that roster. So Buffalo, clearly the favorite in the AFC East once again. But don't be surprised if you see the Patriots, you know, in that playoff hunt. I would not be surprised to see that at all. Elsewhere in the AFC, another quarterback, another former MVP and a former Super Bowl champion in his own right. Patrick Mahomes, of course, had the off-season surgery to replace a torn plantar plate in his foot. Obviously, the Super Bowl did not go well for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That young man spent most of that game running backwards as the offensive line for the Chiefs was completely depleted and overmatched, just completely pushed over by the Tampa Bay defensive line. It wasn't that entertaining of a game, which was disappointing because I think more often than not in the past several years, we haven't seen those big one-sided Super Bowls like we did there for a while. It's been more competitive, and I think everybody thought, you know, when you look at Tampa Bay and you look at Kansas City, you've got the storylines there, the old, the new, the GOAT versus potentially the next in that line in Patrick Mahomes, and you've got two high-powered offenses, but the game was a total mismatch. Mahomes could really not get anything going due to his offensive line being pretty much garbage in that game. So, you know, for me, you know, I'm a Bears fan. I'm from Chicago, but in terms of the AFC, I'm pretty neutral. So I just want to see guys, whether it's Cam, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, excuse me. He prefers Patrick, so I will honor his wishes. I just want to see everybody as healthy as they can be at every position, frankly, and I want to see the best players play at the highest level, which is why I'm hoping Patrick Mahomes is back to 100%, and I'm hoping the Chiefs' offense can be to the level where we've seen it over the past couple of seasons. Because, again, as basically a neutral when it comes to the AFC, I don't have a dog in the hunt in the AFC West. I don't care who wins that division, but I want to see competitive football, and I want to see the Chiefs' offense because, frankly, that's been the most exciting thing to me in terms of the regular season and into the postseason the past few years. Before we hit a break here, do have to mention one other Chief. Things not looking so great for Frank Clark. He's facing up to 3 years in prison after he was formally charged with possession of an assault weapon on Friday. Frank Clark, Pro Bowl defensive end, of course, a fantastic player, was arrested last month after police officers allegedly spotted an Uzi submachine gun sticking out of his duffel bag in his Lamborghini during a routine traffic stop for a vehicle code violation.
Who among us hasn't had that happen to him?
Who among us hasn't had an Uzi submachine gun in our Lamborghini? I will never understand.
If that's a crime, then take me away.
Throw away the key, damn it. I will never understand some of these, and it's not just professional athletes. You know, I will extend that to actors, musicians, professional athletes, pretty much any famous person that is caught with a gun. What are you doing? I mean, dude, Frank Clark or whomever, you are so rich, you could afford a motorcade to, accompany you around if you're feeling unsafe or anything like that. You can afford the highest level of security that is available. But you choose to ride around with an Uzi in your Lambo. Frank Clark. That's going to be tough for the Chiefs if he misses some time, which it looks like he might. I mean, it looks like a suspension is very possible here. The NFL does not sit around and wait for the court system to play out. Sometimes they will take the initiative. If you get mixed up in a situation like this, Roger Goodell will put the hammer down on you. So Frank Clark, if he misses time for the Chiefs next season, that is going to be very tough for them. And one more quick note I wanted to get to here before we hit the break. Larry Fitzgerald still undecided whether he wants to return for his 18th season in the NFL. He is a free agent currently. Larry Fitzgerald, one of the best to ever do it. 18 seasons in the NFL. My goodness, he's one of the few players active that is older than me, Sean Mapes. So I want Larry Fitzgerald to play as long as possible to keep that run going. Man, the third pick overall back in 2004. He played his whole career with the Cardinals. Just, you don't see that very often anymore, folks. A guy playing with a team for his entire career, let alone 16 seasons. So, you'd love to see Fitzgerald maybe 1 year back with the Cardinals, close it out where he started. But if he ended up somewhere else, he's clearly not the guy he was a decade ago. When he was a Pro Bowler every single season. But I'm guessing, even at age 37, there might be some more left in the tank for Larry Fitzgerald. My name is Kevin Zipak here on a Saturday morning on Sports Map Radio. I want to take a look at tonight's UFC card. We'll do that shortly. And then in about 15 minutes, going to talk to Connor McKnight, who does pre- and post-game for the Chicago White Sox. Come right back shortly. We will be here for the next half hour or so Saturday morning on your Sports Map Radio.
Wake up call!
It is remarkable, 75 hot dogs in 10 minutes.
Push comes to shove. Could you do 10 in 10 minutes?
I think I could do 10 in 10 minutes. The problem with me is that by the time I get to 8, I'd be filled with a lot of guilt and shame and embarrassment. I'd probably want to quit. But if my wife said, it is totally okay, I don't care what you look like or smell like when this is over, you can eat 10 hot dogs in 10 minutes, I think I could.
Wake Up Call with Tony D and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 7 to 9 Eastern.
The middle.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. This is it.
Bro, that's the best thing you've done in your life, bro. Let me break this down. I can give you an analysis on this, man. That right there just changed Eitan Shander. Changed you for the better. It doesn't get any better than that, man.
Well, let's put it this way. It should. It should. I don't know that it will, but it should.
Yeah, I could be bulletproof to even this. You never know. I'll tell you, though, this kid is really vocal.
Yeah,
really
imagine
vocal.
that. So it is your kid.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
we do know.
We don't need a DNA test now. He is the cutest, man. How did you, bro? I'm so glad you got that you outkicked your coverage because she definitely leveled it out, man. She definitely leveled him out. He's going to be a looker, and you're just going to be still Eitan, bro.
She leveled him out.
The Middle with Eitan Shander, Barrett Brooks, and Harry Mays. Weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Coast to coast! The NFL schedule release winners and losers.
Whoever did that should be fired. This is a perfect case of this. Like, they sat around and decided in the morning they were going to come out with this stupid-ass story. Like, who cares? So now there's winners and losers for the schedule release. Jesus, I need to do something else.
Farrell Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern.
The Dave Smith Show.
The great Jim Lampley joining Dave Smith here. You said Mike Tyson has been knocked out in an iconic call. Foreman, when you said it happened when he knocked out Michael Moore with that right hand. Does any one of your fights stand out as the most memorable event for you?
Well, the call that I'm fondest of is it happened because it's so personal. I wasn't really trying to needle George. I was curious. I would say, George, how can you expect to beat Moore? He's a southpaw. He's a mover. And George would say to me, Jim, you watch. Late in the fight, he will come and stand in front of me and let me knock him out. As Joe Cortez was counting 6, 7, 8, and it becomes clear that he's going to get to 10, I'm literally thinking to myself, oh my God, he told me for months this was going to happen. Why did I not prepare for this momentous, historic event? And what spontaneously came out of my mouth was, it happened. It happened. That was the right thing to say at the moment, in my view. I'm still proud of it all these years later.
The Dave Smith Show. Weekends at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Sports Map Radio Network.
This is High Frequency on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage. Home loans that fit your life. Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Kevin Zipak.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all of your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. My name is Kevin Zipak, back here on the Sports Map Radio Network for another half hour this morning on your Saturday morning. And I hope everybody is having a lovely start to their weekend. Had a very Uneventful Friday night myself, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. Sean Mapes, my producer this morning, had a low-key Friday night, stayed in, made a little something to eat at home, watched the White Sox game, and watched the newest episode of Lego Masters. Have you ever seen the show Lego Masters?
No, I think I've seen ads for it, though.
Will Arnett is the host because he was a Lego Batman. And it is, if you ever played with Lego or anything like that in your youth, it's on Hulu. I would recommend it. And that was an unpaid ad for Lego Masters. Truly one of the nerdiest things you can do is stay home on a Friday night, watch a baseball game, and then watch Lego Masters and be asleep by 12:30. But here we are. This is me in my mid-30s. Speaking of being in your mid-30s, well, Conor McGregor's not quite there yet. He is just going to be 33. His birthday coming up on July 14th. So he is approaching his mid-30s, but he's not quite there yet. Although the way that Conor McGregor has fought in his last 6 fights, he certainly looks like he may be a man past his prime. Of course, Conor McGregor is one of the biggest stars in the history of mixed martial arts. I don't think that there's any doubt about that, and I'm not sure much of an argument can be made. Certainly of this era, the absolute biggest star. I mean, Ronda Rousey, massive star, one of the biggest of all time, but Conor certainly took it to another level where people who, I don't want to disrespect Ronda Rousey either because her fights there for a while were massive events as well. So I'll put her in a similar category as Conor, but of course Ronda is now mostly retired from combat sports, whereas Conor is still going. I was going to say going strong, but I don't really know how strong he has been going. In his last 6 fights, Conor is just 3-3, dating back to that loss versus Nate Diaz all those years ago, back in 2016. He won the rematch a few months later in their series, so they've never had a rubber match, but Conor really hasn't quite been the same since 2016 in my book. And, you can put some of it down to certainly in mixed martial arts and a lot of sports, guys come out of their prime a little bit earlier than they might in other sports. This is not Major League Baseball where you can play until you're 40 years old or even sometimes if you're a quarterback in the NFL, if you're protected enough and you manage to have good luck with injuries like a Tom Brady, like a Ben Roethlisberger, you can play until you're 40 years old or above in Brady's case. But mixed martial arts, if you've ever been in a shoot wrestling fight or a boxing match or mixed martial arts, if you've ever competed in any sort of combat sport, you know how absolutely tiring it is. Hell, it doesn't even have to be regulated. If you've ever been in a fight, you can know how tiring that it is. So you have to absolutely be at your if you're a pro, certainly, at the highest peak possible condition and not poison your body, if at all possible. One thing about Conor McGregor we know is that, he likes to put certain things in his body. The guy is a little bit of a wild man. That goes without saying, even though I just said it. I mean, the guy's got his own whiskey brand, for crying out loud. Some of his behavior, I'm not going to slander him or make any bold claims on the radio program this morning, but some of his behavior would make you assume that Conor McGregor was possibly on certain substances that maybe made him act a little bit crazy because he is a wild, wild man. And since that fight against Nate Diaz second fight against Nate Diaz back in 2016, he went on to defeat Eddie Alvarez by TKO. And then, of course, he was destroyed by Khabib. He beat, let's be honest, he beat a very washed-up, past his prime Cowboy Cerrone last year, and he lost to Dustin Poirier in their first matchup in Abu Dhabi earlier this year. So tonight, UFC 264 from Las Vegas. It's going to be a sold-out crowd at the T-Mobile Arena. I will be watching it this evening, not only for the main event featuring Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, which I expect Dustin Poirier to win, just like he did last time. I mean, Dustin Poirier is a fantastic fighter, number 1 ranked in the lightweight rankings right now, and number 6 pound for pound. So this is one of the best fighters in the world, and he's already got a win over Conor. Of course, there was a little bit of a brouhaha at the weigh-in, which there always is when it's Conor McGregor. And it's not just Conor McGregor. It's just kind of a combat sports thing. You try to drum up some interest in the fight. You're trying to get into a little scrap at the weigh-in. You got Dana White there trying to keep them apart. This big guy looks like a thumb wearing a polo shirt. Big bald bastard. But the fight tonight, I'm looking forward to it. I've never been a big Conor guy. I'm not going to deny his ability at his peak because he was a very good fighter, a very good striker with a really strong chin in his prime. And I think he is still a good fighter and a very good striker. Not so much the chin anymore. That kind of goes. After you've been knocked out a couple times, the chin never really kind of gets back to where it was. So I expect Dustin Poirier to knock out Conor McGregor this evening in the main event of UFC 264. You know who else is fighting tonight, Sean Mapes, on this card? Greg Hardy.
Oh.
The former NFL lineman, the former Dallas Cowboy, all-around piece of garbage, human scumbag, Greg Hardy fighting. And what a natural progression from being basically kicked out of the National Football League for being a violent piece of garbage to going to the UFC, where he will be fighting Tua Tuivasa this evening, who is 28 years old, out of Sydney, Australia. I can't tell you honestly that I'm too familiar with Tai Tuivasa, but I'm certainly hoping that he defeats Greg Hardy this evening. Hardy's 7-4 so far after being banned from the NFL and coming into UFC. Hell of an athlete, can't deny that, but I'm hoping he gets knocked out on his rear end this evening. Coming up after the break here, we're going to bring in Connor McKnight. He is in Baltimore right now covering White Sox Orioles. And we're going to talk to him next about Major League Baseball. My name's Kevin Zipak on Sports Map Radio.
How hard can it be to find a Python Pro?
Sam's startup had a front-end developer walk out the back door. He needs a new software engineer, stat.
What do you mean they just quit? We go live in 72 hours.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal. We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who will get the IRS off your back.
We saved our home and overcame the most powerful collection agency in the world.
Call Tax Solutions now. Time is running out. Call 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744. 800-296-9744.
Tom Bodette here, still leaving the light on for the long-haul trucker. While we were locked down at home, you were out there day and night bringing us what we needed to make it through. And Motel 6 is here to help you make it through. Want to trade a loose load strap and a sore back for a good night's sleep? Yes, you do. Motel 6 has a place just down the road with a clean, comfortable room and a great low rate. You'll know it when you see it. I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Auto Accident Help Desk is a marketing agency connecting callers with attorneys. Providers pay a fee for advertising services.
I love getting my kids ready and driving them to school.
But a careless driver can change your life in an instant, and insurance companies want to settle on the cheap. Auto Accident Help Desk connects victims with powerful lawyers. They fight for you.
I called Auto Accident Help Desk and got help for my pain and suffering.
Don't let an insurance company take advantage of you. Our attorneys fight and beat big insurance every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859.
If you've been injured in an automobile accident in the last 6 months, you owe it to yourself to make this free call with no obligation. We're available 24/7 to help you get the money you deserve for your pain and suffering. Auto Accident Help Desk helps accident victims like you every day.
Call 800-528-6859. 800-528-6859. That's 800-528-6859.
is High Frequency on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage. Home loans that fit your life. Rocket can.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Kevin Zipak.
Welcome back on in Saturday morning here on SportsMap Radio. My name is Kevin Zipak, and right now we go out to the Progressive guest line where we will find Connor McKnight. He does pre- and post-game and a little play-by-play and a little color last night as well. A real jack of all trades as far as Connor goes. Does all that for the Chicago White Sox on ESPN 1000 up in Chicago. Connor, good morning, sir. How we doing?
Good morning to you. Appreciate the kind words. It's the best Jack I've ever been called.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I didn't think my words were that kind, actually. I mean, I didn't say you did a great job at any of it. I just said you did it. You know, it's just kind of happening.
From you, Kevin, I'll take what I can get.
First of all, I don't